Good evening. It's Monday, December 2nd, and this is a meeting of the Southborough Planning Board. The Planning Board is now in session. The first item on the agenda is a discussion item with Andrew Dennington to discuss one-stop grant and MAPC technical assistance. Mr. Dennington, welcome.
Thanks, Mimi. Can everyone hear me? Okay.
Yep.
Okay. So, thanks for allowing me to speak to you really briefly here. I understand you've got a busy agenda, so I'll be brief. As you'll recall, I came to the planning board meeting several months ago to talk about One Stop and the fact that the select board set a goal of trying to have a successful application for a one-stop grant to work on updating zoning on Route 9 to attract more desirable uses, particularly post-pandemic, and have less vacant office space. So by way of follow-up of that, a couple weeks ago, I had a meeting with Leah Emerson, our EDC coordinator, Mark, Vanessa, and Colleen to talk about how we might go forward on this. Now, the time frame for one-stop applications is expressions of interest are due in February of 2024, but we'd like to start to get going. So one takeaway from this discussion was that we think there's going to be an emphasis on regional collaborative applications this year. And we were thinking of submitting a application together with Westborough for a Route 9 corridor study. And preliminarily, I know Leah has reached out to the Westborough planning director to see whether they have some interest in that and maybe meeting sometime the next couple of weeks. So one of the reason that I wanted to come to your meeting was to let you know that this was going on, and also see if there's a planning board member that might be willing to participate in some of these meetings with me, because I think that together we could have a stronger application that enjoys more support. And then another thing I wanted to update you on is Alan Belniak had suggested to me that there's a grant program for technical assistance program through MAPC, where there might also be a source of funds where we could tap into for a Route 9 zoning study there. The application is due on Friday, December 13th. I know Leah has reached out, again, very preliminarily, to MAPC, and there seemed to be some, they would be willing to work with us on that. So again, my basic ask is to see if anyone from the planning board is interested in working with me on this.
Anyone in the planning board willing to work? I'd be happy to, unless somebody else wants to.
So this definitely, hi, Andrew, it's Marnie Houlihan. This definitely is of interest. My challenge is we're at year end, so that 12/13 is really hard for close of business for me. And the other meetings that you're talking about, Andrew, what are are you looking at during the daytime, nighttime, whenever time?
Again, this is just very preliminary, but like the meeting with the Westboro planning director, we're talking about by Zoom on Monday, by Zoom or Teams Monday. So I think there could be some flexibility if you want to. I probably think that the dates of these are flexible.
I personally would love to be a part of it. I think if I could have a backup if for some reason I can't attend. Okay, so I'll volunteer. Aren't you lucky, Andrew?
Yes.
So Andrew, I just have a question. So the one stop is for a corridor study, and then the MAPC technical assistance grant is for zoning on Route 9? Seems like we're doing the same type of thing with two different consultants.
One of the things that we talked about in the meeting a couple weeks ago is...
I can hear you less now.
Okay, I need to get closer to this microphone so you can hear me. We don't see any harm in applying for the same type of assistance from both programs. Obviously, the MAPC technical assistance has a much shorter time frame, but I don't think we'd be thinking about the corridor study with MAPC technical assistance. I don't know if that answers your question.
Okay. I don't, so just to me, the zoning would come out of the corridor study.
That's right. Yep.
All right. I don't get it, but. Anyone else have any questions or comments? Anyone have questions or comments? Anyone on Zoom?
There's one attendee, no hands raised.
Okay. Okay, thank you, Andrew. So Marnie will
Okay,
work with you, and if she's unavailable, I'll jump in.
Thanks. I really appreciate it. Have a good night.
Thank you, you too. The next item on the agenda is a discussion item, 325 Turnpike Road, Ken's Food, final site as-built. Karina, can you update us?
Would you like us to come up, or?
Sure.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, I'm going to recuse myself.
Okay, thank you.
And just for the record, I'm Charles Scott Doty from John Crow Associates.
And I'm Jeff Marzecki from Ken's Foods.
Jeff, you're the vice president of
Engineering,
engineering, right?
correct.
And how do you spell your last name?
M-U-R-Z-Y-C-K-I.
M-U-R-Z-Y-C-K-I, VP of engineering, okay. Just helps with the transcribing, okay. And I see Sam Dettori is also here.
Yes, Sam is with us
Columbia
also in case he
Construction.
needs to chime in.
Sorry, just stop showing
And I believe also Freddie Glipsy is here from Open Space also about the
Yes.
project.
All right, I'll give you a quick update for the planning board and the public and for you guys. So if you recall, previously, 325 Turnpike Ken's Food, as part of their building expansion project on the east side, sought a temporary certificate of occupancy. And as part of that, there was a few contingencies that had to be addressed. And all of them have been addressed, and recently the as-bills were provided to planning. Then we sent them to Fuss and O'Neill, who reviewed them and provided a review letter on them, indicating that they were significantly in order, and that there were some minor landscaping items that still needed to be addressed for the future because of the timing and because of certain aspects of the landscaping requires like a 3-year program, and we're only into year 2. There's also a bond for the meadow of $11,500, so after the 3rd year and that takes place, then they'd be back to get that bond release. But the as-bills were in order. I provided the planning board the information on the items that were outstanding for the landscaping. And just briefly, I'll just write them in case the planning board wants this included in, if they vote to accept the as-built, we could just add this in the letter to make sure it gets followed up on. So we have, in regards to the Fuss and O'Neill review comment number 2, the riverfront buffer zone area was supposed to be seeded with native seed mix, but is grass. That had mowed over some shrubs. As this is in the riverfront buffer area, this may be an issue with the jurisdiction of the Conservation Commission. I think, just a side note here, that Freddie Gillespie, representing the Open Space Preservation Commission, provided a comment letter, giving kudos to the project for doing such diligent work for the landscaping, and then also commenting on some of these items. So we can also incorporate that if we need to. Per the conservation agent, Melissa Danza said Ken's Food still has required ongoing monitoring for them for at least the next 1 to 2 years, so the discrepancy in plants and mowings can be addressed. My main comment would be making sure that the areas within the restoration area are not mowed, as they are supposed to become a naturalized area after the plantings. And then, again, Freddie Gillespie provided Open Space Preservation Commission as-built review comments. That's where we are. So in my opinion, also in agreement with Fuss and O'Neill that the as-built are in good condition. And again, these are as-built of the entire site that were required as part of the permitting since 2017. There were components, and now this is a complete as-built. And the contingencies that were required previously have been met. Fixing some notes on the plans, a note arrow on some of the features of the drainage, et cetera. So,
Do you have anything to add?
I don't, thank you, a great summary, thank you, Corinna. No, I think we've, I think we're there, so, thank you.
Mr. Stein?
So you're okay with the conditions Karina just outlined relative to the landscaping?
Yes, we
Cetera.
are, and
Okay.
these do also are continuing with the Conservation Commission also. These are really wetland replication areas, wetland buffer zone enhancement areas, should I say.
Okay, thank you. No further questions.
Thank you.
Ms. Houlihan?
I just want to thank you, Ken's Foods, for complying with our requirements with as-built and following the recommendations of our town open space. And I have no questions, so thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, I'd like to echo the thank you, and it's been a long road, and this is very exciting to
is.
close this out. It looks really nice. I have no comments when I drive down Route 9, which makes my husband very happy. Is anyone in the audience? Ms. Gillespie, do you want to speak to this?
Hi, I'm Freddie Gillespie, Chair of the Open Space Preservation Commission. And I want to be clear that the whole commission didn't review this as-built. We didn't have time for a meeting, but I had previously been designated to do the reviews by the commission. And I wanted to thank both Ken's and the Planning Board for the work on this. It was the first time of something of this magnitude using native plants, which is, you know, in line with our zoning and also in line with what our master plan requires or wants, and also in line with where we really need to go as a town and a culture beyond our borders. So thank you. Having something this new, like a meadow, which was very different, we found out new things, and you adapted well when issues were pointed out, and you've worked with one of the best meadow experts in the state who came nationally recommended to the Open Space Commission for a meadow we're doing. So I just wanted to thank you. And I just also wanted to mention the no mowing comment from Conservation is not during the installation. I checked in with Beth to just make sure she understood that there will be mowing next year, and that, of course, if mistakes are made and they mow down plants that are not supposed to be mowed down, then, and that's kind of because of the process being a little out of sync. If that happens, of course, they'd be responsible for replanting them, but to be sure that people are careful not to mow down. And some of those will grow back, the nature of the native plants. But thank you.
Oh,
Thank you.
I think, Freddie, thank you very much. We've learned a lot from you also, helping us along. Thank you.
So if the planning board finds it appropriate to maybe have a vote to accept the as-built with the attached comments from Open Space Preservation Commission, which I believe covers the comments that I had discussed.
So the motion is the planning board accept the as-built for 250, sorry. That's
320
next.
325, yep.
325 Turnpike Road, Ken's Foods, subject to the conditions as read into the record by the town planner and the Open Space Commission comments.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, Latrell, yes?
Stein, yes?
Houlihan, yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Good night, yeah.
So we'll get that information to the building department.
Okay.
To indicate that I'll draft a letter of this notice.
Sent to them.
And that
Yeah.
I'll sign off for planning for the final C of O, certificate of occupancy for you.
Well, thank you very much.
You're-
Thank you
you're
for all
welcome.
your work. Thank you,
Might
Colleen.
take a couple days, but we'll get
Thank
it
you,
there,
Corinne.
okay? You're welcome. Thank you.
Okay.
So we have some time before the hearing starts, so we're going to run through the minutes and maybe start the planner's report, depending on how much time we have.
So the motion is to, for the planning board to accept the October 7th meeting minutes.
Second?
With comments, I have a couple. I have a couple Scrivener's errors. Line 9, I think Ms. DeMaria prefers either Debbie or Deborah. And on line 40, it's Fred Harvey, and 42, it's Harvey. I think it's in there as Herbie or something.
Line,
40,
oh, right there.
Harvey, Harvey.
And that's where we have the nosy.
Yes,
These up.
that's where I found it. So it's, and then just the last name on line 42. Yep, that's it. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, Latrell, yes?
Stein, yes?
Houlihan, yes.
Demiria, yes.
I'd like to make a motion that the planning board accept the meeting minutes from the October 21st, 2024 meeting.
Second?
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, Latrell, yes?
Stein, yes?
Houlihan, yes.
Demiria, yes.
That's it.
Oh, okay.
I can do it at the planner's report.
No, we still have time. You want to do the calendar?
Well, we have longer than that. We have until 10 after. Because 250 is going to extend.
So I was fine with that. The only question I had, I think it was
Hanukkah.
December 15th, which is the first night of Hanukkah.
So the option would be to move it to December 29th, which, right, so it's the middle, so we could maybe have one meeting in December, and we could always add one if there's a issue, unless we shift it back here. We could have, see, it's tough because November, we have the 24th, and that's Thanksgiving week again. So if we had it on the 24th, then we could, no, it still doesn't make a difference. It's a tough situation for the end of that year. Any suggestions?
My suggestion would just go back to back, do the 1st and the 8th.
Yeah.
And then we could always,
And
if we don't have anything,
we can
yeah,
just cancel it.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So go to the 8th. And I can tell you that this year, we had several meetings added in between, too, so that's usually not a problem if we have to do that. Yeah. So if the there's any other conflicts for anybody? We tried to avoid school vacations and holidays. Town meeting is April 7th, yep, 2025. So we'll put this over here.
Do you want to start on the rest of the planner's report?
Yes, I'm sorry. So you guys accept the schedule? This is what we're going to
Yeah, yeah.
finalize and put it up on the
That one,
website?
with that one change, yeah.
Okay. Not December 15th. Okay. So, quick kudos that Mimi forwarded us from Lily Link from MBTA Communities Engagement Senior Manager. She's with CHAPA. She indicated that they have a final learning session for 2024, and they wanted to take the opportunity to reflect on the past year and the lessons learned. And they considered Southborough to be one of the gold standard communities when it comes to 3A. The level of engagement you did was above and beyond, and I think the results speak for themselves. And she was asking if Colleen and Mimi, one or both, would be available to come and speak at to the group at the learning session. She was hoping to have a panel of 3 to 4 communities and would love for them to be a part of it. So that would be December 11th, from 1 p.m. to 2:30 p.m., and it's likely a Zoom meeting, if I'm not mistaken. Let me see here.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, they
it's
all are.
probably, they're pretty
Yeah.
much still doing all Zoom.
So thank you all.
Yeah,
Good job.
all right. Annual town meeting is April 7th, 2025. Let me see here. I'll be drafting up the planning board budget this week, and Marnie and I are going to review it either Wednesday or Thursday, depending on when I can have it completed. I'm targeting Thursday at this point. Having been on vacation last week, there's an abundance of emails in my inbox that I have to address first. So that's that. We just addressed the 2025 planning board meeting dates. Couple of updates on projects. We have 200 Turnpike Road. They started construction, and during construction, they encountered some catch basins and connected them to the drainage system. When Fuss and O'Neill was hired to do a as-built review, or actually in construction phase services, they went out there, reviewed the site, some interim as-built information, and found that that these catch basins needed to be included in the stormwater report, the drainage calculations. So we asked Peter Bemis, who's the engineer for Jonathan Crandall, and he's that landscaping snow removal company that they're converting that site to. So they haven't built a salt shed, and they haven't added the addition to the east side because they're pacing themselves out a little bit, but they are preparing the site. So they're intending to pave the site, but it's at their own risk. Peter Bemis today provided updated stormwater calculations, which we'll be forwarding to Fuss and O'Neill for follow-up review. And then this is just part of construction phase services. So as the project moves forward, there'll be additional Fuss and O'Neill site inspections until the time we get to the as-built phase of it. As far as the buildings, if they decide not to move forward with those, I will recommend that they need to come to the planning board to let the planning board know about the changes to the site and what their plan is to do that. And they're also working on their building permit for the interior itself. So we're taking care of that. It's going back to Fuss and O'Neill and review, so that'll be in good shape, hopefully. There's no real update on 120 Turnpike yet. The ZBA, for the 40B, the ZBA is going to be deliberating next week, believe. Mimi, you said December 11th. I forwarded 250 Turnpike 40B revised materials to the planning board today for review. There are some changes there that appear to may impact the current application for the contractor's yard building. I have, yeah. And 352 Turnpike, I don't have anything new on that as well. Mimi, unless you know anything updated on that.
As far as I know, the eligibility letter hasn't been received yet.
Right. There's still, the planning board had provided comments to Mass Housing based on the application that the developer provided to Mass Housing. So the next step is Mass Housing provides an eligibility letter for the project. And then they would apply for an actual comprehensive permit with the town.
Yes, ma'am?
Freddie Gillespie, Chair of the Open Space Preservation Commission. You mentioned 120 Turnpike. Is that the extent of the conversation tonight? Are you making any recommendations for conditions or discussing that at all?
Well, so they closed the hearing, so they can't take any further input, and they're deliberating on the 11th.
So I guess that was my question. You can't make recommendations for conditions after they close the hearing?
Unless it's something that they've already discussed or that's already been presented to them.
Correct. So if you had comments on the existing project, there's no conditions that come forth from that you would recommend? I'm just trying to figure out the process because we got all this information at 3:30 in the afternoon where we couldn't meet to discuss, and there's no way to have provided any input on that. And
As did we.
so I'm just wondering if there was anything prior that you had submitted that could be a suggestion for a condition, or is that just not heard of?
Well, I think our prior letters, there was a lot in there about the 6.2 acres and the drainage swales, and at their last hearing, that town council did discuss that and said they would be able to condition something there, but
So it's not a matter where they have the information and you can say, based on that, we'd like you to make this condition. Is that like a new information?
Well, I think, yeah, it's tricky.
That's why I'm asking.
And I don't know if they're going to take any public comment either. Well, they can't take new information, so it's not a hearing, it's a meeting, and I don't know how they're going to.
Okay, and then I just had heard from town council's opinion on that the 6.2 acres is 6.2 acres, and the condition of it doesn't come into play. And not being a lawyer, we know that different lawyers have different opinions, and we still believe, the Open Space Commission believes that there is room for a modification request there. And this is me personally speaking, I thought, isn't coming up with grading that's not on the original site plan, isn't that a site plan modification? When you're grading a significant portion of the land that was not previously going to be anywhere graded. Is that still a possibility that we should be looking at? Could be looking at?
Perhaps. I know that was one of our comment letters, that it was clear, and we had sent this to town council with minutes from when that site plan was discussed, that it was clear that that land was to be donated as open space, and there's a definition of open space which doesn't include drainage swales and grading. So all that information has been forwarded to town council and was given to the zoning board of appeals.
So, not to tie this up too long, but I'm looking at it a little bit differently, because I heard that, well, nothing in the exact decision said undisturbed, or I'd have to go back, and I know you've made the case following through the minutes and the definitions, but when you look at a site plan is a site plan. And if it doesn't have grading on it, and then you have a new site plan with grading, isn't that a different site plan? Forget the 6.2 acres and the natural. I'm just talking about clearly the different condition of the land might be a different avenue to approach that. Because town council keeps saying 6.2 acres is 6.2 acres. And I'm just saying, site plan has no grading on it, and then now you have grading. Isn't that a modification to that site plan? Was just a thought.
We're going to watch this carefully. Yes, sir.
I understand that the public hearing is closed.
Mr. Carter, why don't you wait till you get up to the microphone?
I am Paul Carter.
Mr. Carter, you know we're going to be starting a public hearing in about 5 minutes.
Absolutely.
Thanks.
I'll be very brief. 6 Hillside Avenue. I know the board has commented extensively about this plan and has put a lot of work into it that has been not recognized and not incorporated. What I submitted there is just some suggested conditions about the things that we've been talking about for, I noticed it's been a year. Not to fault you guys, but the developer has not been cooperative with the planning board, and that's taken a lot of time. So anyway, I'm going to send this to the ZBA, and I give it to you. You don't have to do anything with it if you don't want, but as you know, I've been trying to get them a plan that is reasonable professional engineering, the level that you got from Ken Foods, which is what you deserve. So it's not new information. It's just a suggestion for some kinds of wording that address some things that we've been talking about for at least 4 or 6 months. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Carter.
And that's all I have for planner's report today, just so you know. So you can,
That's the whole planner's report?
yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. The ADU status. At the last meeting, town council had offered to prepare the draft ADU bylaw for the town, for town meeting in 2025. And at that point, he said about 2 weeks. So we'll be expecting that sometime this week, and it'll be ready for distribution to the planning board as soon as I get it in the door, as soon as we get it. Unless you have something else to add, Mimi.
Nope. Next item on the agenda is a public hearing, 250 Turnpike Road, Contractor's Yard Building, major site plan approval.
The applicant has provided an extension request form, which they signed, continuing the public hearing without testimony to December 16th, and extending the planning board's action for decision to December 20th, the standard 4 days after the meeting, in case there's an issue with snow, et cetera. And we received an email this afternoon saying, we'd like to continue the hearing without testimony.
Motion is for the public hearing for 250 Turnpike Road, Contractor's Yard Building, major site plan approval to be continued to December 16th, 2024 at 7 p.m., and for the decision deadline to also be extended to December 20th, 2024.
Second?
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, Latrell, yes?
Stein, yes?
Houlihan, yes.
Demiria, yes.
All right.
Mimi, in the 2 minutes, can I just ask other business before the board, just a quick question? Sure. The property, the car condos on Clifford and Route 9, can we add that to a meeting just to get an update? Oh, sure. It's an eyesore. So I'd just like to understand where we are with that.
Can you just describe the, what are the properties again?
It's the car condos at,
Oh,
not Clifford, Parkerville and Route 9.
241, 245.
Yes, I think that's right. I think it's probably a perk thing still, or it was a perk
Yes,
thing.
they were perking, looking to locate the septic system on
Now,
site.
very long time since we've last seen them.
Yes. They did get an extension to their site plan. Okay. Put it on the agenda. Do we want to invite them to attend, or is this for planning board discussion only? I think I can follow up with them in an email to see what their status is, and then I'll update the board. How's that? Okay.
We have 1 minute. Any other questions? Oh, there we go. The next item on the agenda is a public hearing, 2 East Main Street, mixed-use building, major site plan approval, and 2 East Main Street, mixed-use building, special permit downtown district.
Would you like me to read the public hearing?
Sure.
I mean, the legal ad for the public hearing? I'm sorry. Okay. All right, this is November 13th, 2024, public hearing notice, major site plan approval in downtown district special permit, 2 East Main Street, Assessors Map 54, Parcel 43. Southborough Planning Board shall hold a public hearing on Monday, December 2nd, 2024, at 7:10 p.m. in the Thomas J. McAuliffe Hearing Room, second floor, Townhouse, 17 Common Street, Southborough, Mass., to consider the application of Peter Bemis for the property located at 2 East Main Street for major site plan approval per Section 174-10 and special permit for downtown district per Section 174-10.2. These hearings concern a proposal to construct a 2.5-story, 9,000-square-foot mixed-use building with non-residential use on the first floor and 4 residential units on the second floor, and including a parking area and related infrastructure. This site is located in the downtown zoning district. Copy of the application and plans may be viewed at the planning office at the Southborough Townhouse during normal business hours, or on the planning board agenda center at www.southboroughma.gov/agenda center/planning-board-29. Any person wishing to be heard on the proposed plan should appear at time and place designated or join virtually at the following link, www.southborough.mass.gov/674/virtual-meetings. Mimi Luttrell, Chair, Southborough Planning Board. So, would you like me to give you a quick rundown on where we are? Okay? Just to here. So Mr. Bemis, who is also owner of the property, is also, his engineering firm is preparing the plans. We had a pre-application meeting with, at the planning board to present the project, if you recall, on October 21st. On November 13th, we received submission number 1 with plans dated November 1st, 2024. The legal ads were sent to the newspaper on November 13th. No, hold on a second. The legal ad was sent to the town clerk, filed with the town clerk, November 13th. Submission 1 was sent to Fuss and O'Neill for a task authorization on November 22nd. We received, while I was on vacation last week, we received the TAs back from F&O, and I'll be supplying those to you tomorrow morning. The legal ads were sent to the applicant for abutter notification on November 22nd, and the ads will run in the newspaper on November 18th and the 25th, sent out to the towns and agencies as well. Submission 1 was provided to the planning board in hard copy and in PDF. It also went out to the town departments. And we received green cards and mailing receipts to correspond with the certified abutters list as well. And that brings us to this evening, Planning Board Public Hearing number 1. We also received this afternoon a comment letter from Chris Lund, the building inspector commissioner, apologizing for the short notice. I had indicated to him that it still needed to be reviewed by Fuss and O'Neill, so that you'd be aware. And then I forwarded those comments to you, Peter, this afternoon as well. I received some comments. No, that was it. I just received comments from the building department. And that brings us to this evening's public hearing for these 2 permit applications.
Thank you, Karina.
You're welcome.
Welcome, Mr. Bemis.
Evening. Before I make any presentation, I noticed you have one member not sitting. Is she virtual, or is she not available at all this evening? Because I will need a special permit from you, and I know we're going to need Fuss and O'Neill comments. I just hate to give testimony and then find out that we're struggling to keep my 5 sitting members in attendance.
She is. Sure.
Mine on?
She's not feeling well tonight, so but she can fill out a Mullins.
At one time,
Yeah,
so.
we won't let her miss another one.
Okay, that works for me, too. I want to get this done, so I just note that we do need a special permit, and I will need, the board's support, so. Okay, good evening. Peter Bemis, Engineer and Design Consultants.
Could you turn your mic on, please?
I don't know.
You gotta just speak louder and into it.
All right.
Sorry. Use your
Is it
voice.
better?
Yeah.
Peter Bemis, Engineering Design Consultants, here to present the major site plan 17410 in downtown district 1741012. The site plan set is before the board. We are at 2 East Main Street. The requisite requirements for this district in the downtown district is 5,000 square feet. Our lot has 19,765 square feet. We need 60 feet of frontage. We have 95 feet of frontage on East Main Street. That is our primary street. That's the street that we wish to have our facade percentage calculation based upon. We've got a front yard setback along 2 streets, because we're along East Main and Newton Street. So we've got 10.2 and 10.7 10 footage requirement. We have 139.8 feet to our rear yard setback with a 35-foot setback. And that property is currently used as a residence. So we're trying to respect that setback as most as possible. 3-story building is allowed. We have a 2.5-story building proposed. We have a 9,000 square foot footprint of total area, 3,000 square foot of footprint area. We have about 2 times the minimum landscape requirement provided. And again, as I said on the facade, you're looking for a 70% build out along the street. East Main Street is our designated street, and we're at 75% with the proposal. The parking, you have definitions in your parking provisions. However, there is a provision made for the downtown district of 1 space per dwelling unit. So we're proposing 4 residential dwellings on the upper floors. So we'll need 4 parking spaces for that use. And we need 1 space for 300 square feet for the non-residential floor area, which is the first floor, which is 3,000 square feet. So we'll need 10 parking spaces with 14 being required. We've got more than that minimum. We would like to provide more because the success of this project is a function of having the ability for people to park for the retail use. See, this is a first step in revitalizing the downtown area. We're well within the parameters of the zoning district. We are proposing 4 units, therefore 1 unit would have to be affordable. The factor at 12.5%, so we would comply with that. We'll follow whatever provisions the board wants us to when it comes to the affordable unit being maintained. We see this as a rental community, not an ownership community. So, again, whatever the protocol is that the board wants us to follow, we would follow. I'd be happy to go through the site plan set. You know, it is a complete set of drawings. We've got those, we're well within the downtown district. It's probably the center point of the downtown district. I don't know how, you know, visually people can see that. Parking is coming in off of Newton Street. Building fronts along East Main Street. The main facade of the building is along that East Main front, and then the parking in the rear with two primary entrances, one coming off of East Main and one coming off of the parking lot to the rear. We'll have a entrance off of Newton Street. There's no entrance off of East Main Street. We're still seeing an outdoor gathering area that would be towards the west, on the northwest. And then along the street front, we've got a sidewalk that's there. We would be looking to expand that existing sidewalk so that we can create that, again, plaza effect along the edge of the building, so that there could be some outdoor seating there as well for the types of uses that we hope to attract here. You do have 4 by right, if you will, uses. We are asking for those 4 uses be allowed on the retail space as a multi-tenant building that this is set up to be. Wouldn't anticipate more than 4 tenants, likely to be 2, but we would have the ability to get smaller if need to, with having a front along both the north and south sides of the building. One handicap parking space, it's a van space. That's what's needed, up to 25. We're below the 25 space threshold with the whole facility. We've got snow storage areas that are defined on the plan. We've got walkways that are defined on the plan. Layout materials pretty much meets all your minimum requirements. For grading, we are keeping the site fairly close to existing grades that are there. There's a fill towards the back. The septic system is on the north side of the building, along Newton Street. The stormwater is handled on site. Parking lot will be collected with a treatment unit, and that will then go into the rain garden that we have already prepared on the site. Roof drainage will be collected. That will be processed on the northwest side of the building, with overflow to the same rain garden area. We had Board of Health approval for this project. We would expect to revisit that with the board. We've done that a couple of times already now. We want to make sure we get traction with this proposal, and we'll go back to the board and renew that permit again. We had a stormwater permit. A notice of intent was filed with Conservation. We have an order of conditions with Conservation. We allowed that to expire. Not having a project during the last review period, we would renew that with the commission again as soon as we get traction with the proposal. There is a landscaping plan. Can you advance the slides? So for landscaping, we've got the requisite number of street trees. We are still proposing an evergreen screen along the north side of the property to our abutter. Again, residential uses to the north. And those would be green giant arborvitaes. Then we've got a few flowering trees that are there. The lighting, we did do the lighting by your formula. I would like to try to find a stagecoach type light, which I think would look really good on this building, that may have some lower lumens, because we did go over the whole hardscape formula. It's kind of hard not to, unfortunately, because the site's not as large. Anticipates more. None of the light leaves the site. We gave you a photometric showing that all the lighting stays on the property. However, the lumen level was higher than allowed. There was just, I think, 4 parking lot lights, and we gave you the distribution on those. You know, again, we could maybe look into trying to get some lower light levels with that, just so we can get underneath the threshold. But those stagecoach-type lights, they're really not a lot different than a residential light fixture. And unfortunately, like, the house next door may not be regulated, but this would be. So we just kind of come to terms with that. And we need enough illumination. We don't want too much, but we want enough, so that we don't look like we don't have enough light to support our proposed use. That's pretty much it. I did ask you, I think somewhere in the narrative about that, considering letting the light levels go up a bit, as long as we can keep them under control for a total value. That's pretty much it for like an initial presentation. Like I said, the uses that are allowed, I can recite those. It's 174-812B. It's maximum, up to a maximum of 3,000 square feet per establishment. Our whole establishment would be 3,000 feet, so we could do one or do a fraction thereof. But it's retail sales and services, ice cream, sandwich shops, candy shops, specialty food establishments serving walk-in customers. No drive-through. There would be no drive-through on this site. Restaurant, indoor seating, outdoor seating, and then personal services, beauty shop, barber salon, shoe repair. There are uses that are allowed by special permit, again, with approval of the project, and we have a user that comes along, wants to do one of those use categories, be happy to come back to the board and get that single use. Everyone would be notified again, butters would be able to participate in that process. But we're not going to try to second guess what the marketplace will bring. Right now, we just want to get a project that we can get some legs with, and then find out what sort of traction we can get with that.
Can you just explain to the board why you don't need a special permit from the ZBA? And maybe I can just help you with that. We talked about this in our I just wanted the planning board to understand that in the downtown district. So in our town code under 174-8, there's typically, if there's more than one building or more than one use on a project, that you need a ZBA special permit, but it exempts the downtown district because of the reasons that the mixed use. So if the public was questioning whether it needed a ZBA special permit.
The viability of the building is for mixed use. To go back to an office building at this location, that doesn't make sense at this point. The zoning is set. We see the mixed use as being the more attractive, and frankly, it's going to bring more life into the downtown area, which is what the whole goal of the bylaw was, is to do that. So, thank you. Happy to answer any questions.
Great. Thank you very much. Mr. Stein?
Thanks, Peter. You mentioned that you're looking for a stagecoach shade, but there is one spec'd out in the plan. So.
I'm looking for one that will have a less of an output. It may be that just has a higher output, and we can find one that's better. That's the one that my lighting consultant provided us with. It's kind of the commercially rated outdoor one that you'd put on for this type of facility. So I didn't challenge him yet. I will try to come back with something alternative, just so you know that when I submitted that's the information I had from them already. So I wasn't able to make a quick change. When all of a sudden the values added up and it exceeded, I was like, damn, can't really change that at this juncture. So I wanted you just to have the facts up front.
Thank you. So are you seeking a waiver for the parking width at 9?
We'd like to go with 9 feet, yes. So that will work. If that requires a waiver from you, then I will ask for that.
Am I mistaken that I thought it was 9.5 feet?
Yep.
You're correct, it is 9.5.
All right.
And I don't know if we
So-
can waive that.
So I would seriously consider trying to make the 9.5
Okay.
work, because we've held firm on most, I can't think of a project where we have granted a waiver for that off the top of my head. So
I see a lot of it in town, regardless of whether you've allowed
that's
it or not.
not, yeah. Unfortunately, as you know, that's not the way we do it.
Okay, I got it. I got it. I'm letting you know, it just seems to be commonplace out there that even though you may have said have it a certain size, it goes in a different way, so.
And at what point would you be preparing like the deed restriction for the affordable unit?
I could have that for you for the next meeting.
Great.
If I just get an idea of the format that you'd like me to follow, is it just the affordable unit, the way you do 40B in town,
So-
for example? And I'll just use that criteria?
And would you be able to assist with, with the DHCD guidelines?
Yes, so you have to work with an agency like EOHLC, which was formerly the DHCD,
Okay,
that has certain requirements for including deed riders in the deed that specify that it's an affordable unit at a certain cost in perpetuity. So
yeah, but I'm
there's
saying that
certain
you've done this
standard-
already in town, so I can just follow the
Yeah.
roadmap on one that's
Yeah,
already there.
but we do have to work with DHCD to set, are these going to be rentals or ownership?
Rentals.
Rentals? Okay, all right. Right, there's a lottery requirement and all that for rentals, so we'll work with you to figure that out. We haven't done one in a little while, but we'll renew our knowledge of it
Well, I
and give
think
you
it's the
guidance.
same process as affordables on a 40B, so
Yeah.
maybe Lara can
Give us
swing
some
as they-
assistance,
yeah.
yeah. And we have contacts at the EOHLC who work with us on the subsidized housing inventory and with other affordable units that we have in town, what was required for
I
those.
mean, it's unfortunately probably a fair amount of work, unfortunately, just to get one, but at the same time, we're getting one, so that's not a bad thing.
It's a good
So we'll
thing.
do the work. Yeah, that's right. So we'll do the work.
So, what is the time frame?
As quickly as we can get through this process, we can start, getting seriously involved with this. Absolutely.
Okay.
I think the
I think that,
market still seems strong enough to support it, and
yeah, I mean, speaking for myself, I really need to see that site utilized. So let's get that going.
okay, thank you.
Ms. Houlihan.
Thanks. Hi, Peter. Thank you. You knew I'd catch you on the lighting. Not catch you, but you.
No, I will look forward to the help. You might know just what I need.
So just a couple questions. So first of all, thank you. Just things that, lessons learned from the last time, right? Like the 2.5, I know it allows for 3 stories, like just kind of thinking about all those considerations that we provided. So thank you for that. Quick question just on ADA compliance, handicap access, handicap parking.
Yep. So there'll be full handicap access to the building from the rear, basically where our handicap parking space will be. The first floor would be handicapped accessible. The apartments would not.
Would not be, okay.
And they're not required to be. It's a much larger project that would mandate that.
Yep. Then you need elevators and all
Correct.
sorts of things,
Correct.
okay?
Yeah, we're not
So-
even close. It's
so the
20
parking
some
f-
odd units.
Yeah, so the parking facilities and everything would accommodate wheelchair access and all that. Okay, so that's number one. Number two, so I was kind of doing the math on the photometric. So one, yes, you totally kept it within the property lines. So there's the homeowner behind the house, the facility at 5446. So you have one of the high lumen lamps in the back there, and I was thinking, could you take 2 of the lower lumen, the very low, the 1000, and get similar? I mean, I did the photometric in my head. 2 of those and reduce one of the 4 lamps to 3, so that you'd have 14 lamps and 3 without that back property line, just kind of respecting that homeowner in the back.
Right.
And understanding you need that because that's all parking. So I understand the challenges that you face, and just for the town, for the planning board, when we wrote the illumination bylaw and we leveraged the L1, L2, L3 zoning, and we said resident A and B would be subject to the L2, which it really is very reduced versus kind of the highway district or business district or something that has business or mixed use. And we don't have that mixed use really anywhere except for in that other, highway business district or other areas. So I personally would not be opposed to allowing for the overage if we work together to kind of find an accommodation for this. So there probably are stagecoach that have like a 5,000 lumen emission versus 8,000. And we can help, like, I'm happy to help you find that. I just think that we're still going to go over because of the dimension of the parking lot, the requirements that we should be illuminating for safety, and then we can also kind of make them, the goal of the illumination bylaw was for dark skies initiative, so if we can respect the dark skies and have timers or something like that to help accommodate that, I'm more than willing to think about how we can meet the requirements necessary so we can proceed with the development. Other than that was really, I didn't have any major questions.
Okay, great.
Mr. Murray.
Hi, Peter. Welcome. I just have two questions for you. I was looking at the construction notes on soil test data, and I remembered that the site used to be an old gas station, and I never really knew the history, and I was wondering if you could just share that. Were the tanks removed? Had there ever
Yep.
been any a lot of those tanks were leaking from way back. Like, what kind of work had been done?
They did a full cleanup. So when they transferred it to us, they came back with clean bill of health, so we were set. They remediated the entire site.
So was that
no
the
fur-
previous owner before you?
Correct, yes. The gentleman that we purchased it from, who had originally acquired it, he undertook all those costs.
Okay, and so like years later, you don't have to do any additional work? Like,
There was
I know
nothing
you're
else that
doing
we had
soil
to do.
testing, but you're not
we'll still have, when we go out to do our construction work, we'll be doing observations, and we'll be checking, but there was nothing further. They took out all of the problem areas.
Yeah.
And they got a clean bill of health.
Okay, good. Thank you. I just wanted to ask
We've
about-
done a lot of testing since then, too, because we had to find spots where we could actually put the leaching area for the
Yeah.
septic system, and then for stormwater, so we've not had any problems since.
Yeah, good. Okay, thank you. And I just wanted to ask if you had considered putting in electric chargers for electric vehicle charging, if that's a possibility.
Yeah, I think
there?
the building inspector didn't put that in his letter. I was actually kind of pleasantly surprised not to see it, but I suspect after we talk again, I'll be having a conversation with about it. I'm not sure how they're going to affect sites like this, so, to the extent we have to by law, we'll be doing it.
Okay, thank you.
I realize that's the future.
Yeah. Thanks.
Thank you, Peter. A question on the lighting, on the, where am I? On the light exhibit, it shows a different light than is on the plan, page 3, like, so on the light exhibit, the label B, on Plan Set 3, that light is crossed out, and it has the other one there.
Stagecoach was the one that we got. That's what's on the plan. And then in the light pole detail base, that has like a generic base, but then the fixture's in the upper right, and that's the one that was in the packet that we submitted to the D series. So I'm not sure. So sheet 3.
Yeah, let me,
Yep, it shows a shoebox with the base, but the fixture itself is in the upper right that we would be using. Because those old shoeboxes, well, they can be retrofitted, but for the most part, they were metal halide.
so so in that on Plan Sheet 3, it has two lines. One is the light that is shown on the light exhibit, and that's crossed out.
Oh, wait a minute.
And
I
then
know
it
what you're talking about,
shows
the
a different
stagecoach.
light. The wall mount, 10-inch stagecoach.
Right. Oh, I see what you're saying. It looks like the 1,500 is crossed out and the 2,700 is the one that he kept.
Yeah,
Right.
so I'm wondering what light you're using and what was used for the calculation.
Yeah, I don't remember the exact numbers, Mimi, but again, I'm prepared to not, I like the fixture, I like the shape of it, I like its look, and I've seen this on other sites, it's a commercial fixture, it's gonna last a long time. But I gotta get the lumens down, so
Okay.
I'm probably gonna change it. So
All
I'm
right.
not gonna worry too much about it
So
tonight.
I won't worry about it either then. So the building commissioner had commented on the 40% for the exceeding the 40% for the residential, which is in,
50%, 40%? Yeah, I know,
which is in the definition for mixed use.
right. I didn't get to look at that. I saw that he had written it, but I didn't get to look at what that really meant in the bylaw. Because we exceed the landscaping by 50%, so I know that, so I'm not too worried about that one. It was the,
With that, so he just sent that today, but that
yeah, I
can be
know, and I
something
didn't get a
for you
chance to
to look at.
understand it better.
I just believe it.
But it's a special, so that we are seeking a special permit from the board. So I think jurisdictionally, you folks have the ability to allow the project at 50%. I think by right, it's 40%. I don't need to come to you and ask for permission, but we were already asking for the special permit. And I think we're at 45% was the exact number. So that's the way I read it, is that it's number 5 in the downtown district. It says maximum floor area ratio of 40 is allowed by right, or a maximum of 50% by special permit from the planning board. But we are seeking a special permit from you.
Right, but this is the definition of mixed-use development. The ground floor facing the street shall be used only for permitted residential uses, and the residential dwellings cannot exceed 40% of the gross floor area of the above-ground level space of the building.
All right, I'll find it. And I'll
It's
go-
it's under definitions 174-2, mixed-use development.
It's not in the downtown district?
No, it's under definitions, but it's a definition from the downtown district.
All right, I'm not going to be able to do that while I'm sitting here, so
No,
I'll get
no.
an answer.
Okay.
I'll work it out with the building inspector.
So, so 20% of the site is required to be landscaped, and 50% of that is required to be in the front of the building?
So, we got to talk about that one, that's for sure. I don't know about that number, because the whole idea here is to create the plaza effect along the building. So we still have some landscaping there, but, the idea was to have some seating area there. So you're going to eliminate all of that opportunity if you were to adopt that approach. I don't,
So what is in those perennial planters in the front of the building?
yeah, that's what I was proposing to put in. There was some sort of plantings. I don't know what they are yet, but I just called them out as perennial plantings.
Okay, I'd want to know what they
I
are.
will get the answer for you.
So they're not burning bush or
No, they're not going to be.
Bradford pear?
The idea was to have some color and contrast along the front of the building, but, and maybe that they, there can be some that are freestanding and they're in, planters or something versus in an opening in the
So-
ground, above ground.
Okay, in that concrete area that is called out as a gathering, there's going to be seating there?
That was the hope, yes.
Okay. Yeah,
I called it out.
It says gathering
Yeah,
area, but
gathering
it's just, it looks like a concrete slab.
Mhm.
But it's not very gathering-y unless it has seating or something.
Well, yes, I didn't draw any tables or anything.
Okay.
there. I mean, we wanted,
Right.
I'm trying to set the stage for something that can happen.
And your trees are non-native?
That's probably a holdover from the previous plan. That's easy to deal with. I forgot why we chose those. There must have been a reason.
Just to
On the
see if
street
I was
tree.
going to pay attention?
No, I wasn't trying to test you. Color contrast was important, that much I can say. So we were trying to have the opportunity for some flowering trees.
Well, the dogwoods are okay,
Yeah,
but
okay.
those other ones,
Yeah, I'm not sure why we picked those. The London plane tree, it's on the street tree for the town? There has to be a reason why. It's not one that I would gravitate towards. Sure it's not on okay.
and they're also required to be a minimum of 3-inch caliper.
That's not a problem.
And then the other question is the storage, snow storage is like being plowed on top of the trees?
Well, it's in between them, but yeah, sure, I'll get the shading a little bit smaller.
They usually don't like salt very
No,
much.
I would hope that there's not a lot of salt being used anyways, but I mean, for the most part, I think the O&M plan for this site would dictate that, during excessive storm events, the snow's going to be hauled away. It's a very small site,
Yeah.
so that's how these sites are typically managed.
And what are the exterior materials of the building?
It was colonial, clad board. I mean, it was
Okay.
trying to be traditional.
Okay.
It wasn't vinyl. if that's
All
what
right,
you're asking.
because the design guidelines discourage the,
Okay. We'll
The
go a few
vinyl.
more details on there for that.
okay, I think that's all I have. And I had a comment about the 9.5 foot. And do you want to tell me where I should go with my tape measure, Peter? If people are,
It's not hard, but I'm not going to tell you where to go, but it wouldn't be hard. You can tell when you drive in the parking lot and you can't fit.
oh, yeah.
That's how I know.
Can I ask a quick question for the
Sure.
planning board? Is the planning board aware, just so that you know, I just want to make sure, because we talked about this a little bit, the 9,000 square feet in the building, what is represented in that 9,000 square feet? So on the first floor, right, you have 3,000 square feet, and then on the second floor, you have 3,000 square feet, 4 units, so that's 6,000. You had mentioned that you may be lofting the apartments
Yeah, the thought
to
was
create
to have
a second
a second
floor
floor, right.
in a cathedral, in like a vaulted ceiling. So
Right.
there'd be like 600 square feet of vaulted second floor in each unit, like those studios they
Right.
do now. You know what I mean? That's very common in the old mill buildings. They'll have one floor with everything and then a bedroom lofted.
It's open space. I mean, it's not going to be more floor space, but it would be open space. And just to be careful with the numbers, so we had the ability to try to be creative with the building, that's all.
Right, and just the planning board should be aware that the architectural plan that was provided with, it was the original architectural plan from 2019, and that you were going to provide an
Right.
updated one to really demonstrate the floor plan and an elevation for the
Correct.
building. But the elevation itself, the way the building looks would be similar,
Correct.
yeah. But I just
Conceptually,
needed
yeah.
you to be aware of that. That's where the 9,000 square feet comes in. It's not a basement, it's actually first floor, and the second floor, and the apartments have a loft.
But we were thinking of having some mechanical space in the basement for being able to service the building versus trying to do it through
But that's not
exterior-
considered livable space.
Right,
That's
right, exactly.
right. That's
It
not
would just be mechanical.
gross
space.
floor area, right. Okay, just want to make sure. And you'll be putting the photometric plan on an official plan.
Yes.
on
It
a
wa-
plan sheet.
it was in the plan, it just wasn't plotting, so.
Okay, with the hardscape calculation
Correct.
and everything in, okay. Thanks.
So Peter, is it your intention to come back on December 16th?
Yes,
Okay.
Yeah, I
And
want
we
to keep
should-
the process
we
moving.
should
It's
be having-
fluid. I understand. It's a lot to ask, and we'll get done what we can get done.
We should be having the Fuss and O'Neill review at
Yes.
5.
Fuss and O'Neill agreed to continue assisting us on some of these until we transition to the new consultant, which hopefully is selected at the select board tomorrow.
Okay. So
And
when did they get this stuff?
Fuss and O'Neill received this, I can tell you right here. I just don't know.
The reason I ask is if we don't have that back in a
Yeah.
timely fashion, we might as well just push this.
I understand. Yeah, I'd do that if I have to. I'm not
So
going
on-
to waste your time.
Yeah, so November 22nd, we submitted to Fuss and O'Neill. That was the week before holiday week, right? Thanksgiving. They sent me TAs last Tuesday while I was out, the actual scope. So Peter provided a certain amount already, like $4,500 for the peer review, because we weren't sure what it would be, because Fuss and O'Neill has different rates now as we proceed with them. And you agreed that you would cover the supplemental if it came in.
yeah.
So I got the supplemental, I got the TA this morning, because I was in, and it's going to Peter tomorrow, and he'll supply me with the next check, and then I can sign the TA, and then they will engage in the review. So even though they have it,
I'm not sure if, I'm not getting whether or not we're going to get it by the 16th.
that's what I'm saying. So 2 weeks is the 16th, right? So it may not be turned around in time enough for you
Okay.
to redefine your plans, revise your plans based on their comments. You have comments from the planning board, but you may not have the opportunity to address all the Fuss and O'Neill comments at the same time. And I know that you're changing things, right? You're going to be providing possibly different lighting fixtures, right? And the floor plan and architectural, all that has to still be kind of
Understood.
brought to finish.
Yeah, so
more
if
complete
it doesn't make
application.
sense to be beyond the 16th, we'll continue, but I'd rather keep the ability to have the process moving, and if it cannot, we'll give you a letter of extension. And we're not bumping up onto decision periods at all. We're pretty efficient with time so far.
No, and you wanted to get your foot in the door to
I
get
do.
the process going,
Right.
so we made that accommodation, and knowing we would have to do some follow-up.
Okay. Any questions or comments?
Hi, Freddie Gillespie, Chair of the Open Space Preservation Commission, and just on the landscaping, and Mimi brought up a lot of the questions I had. The Commission's hoping to meet before your next hearing, so we'll have some comments from the Commission, but just in my quick overview, I had a couple of questions. Peter, you mentioned did you say a rain garden, or,
Right.
so there was no planting plans for that I could see?
We'd already built it with our conservation approval, but back then we weren't really planting it, but it's vegetated now, I can tell you. I guess, get you a list of what propagated. 'Cause I don't know.
So that's not a new component of the lot?
No, well, it's already built. I mean, I guess I could take it apart again and get permission to do that from the Conservation Commission.
Is it part of the drainage system?
Yeah, well, but to the extent the site drains into it now, yes,
And it's part of the calculations that you
Yeah.
provided?
yes.
So my question just was, if it's planted, if you already planted it, are those plants there, or is it full of something else?
We'll find
So-
out.
Okay. And then it says seeded, but it doesn't say what it's seeded with. And I would also say the same thing Mimi brought up. The trees, except for the flowering dogwood, are all either non-native or hybrids with non-native trees. So, and like there's a native arborvitae that you could use instead of a Japanese one. So, and the street tree list that the town has, I don't think there's a good place to find trees on that.
Okay.
They're all either native or, in a couple of isolated incidents, there was, for specific columnar trees, you might find some hybrids there, just for that case, but that
I
would
think
be,
that's what we were trying to do, particularly on the street, but,
but I will say thank you. Everyone's very happy to see this moving forward.
Thank you. Anyone else? Anyone online? Oh, here we go.
Hi, Mary Quirk, 11 East Main Street. So when I'm looking at this plan, and I would like to ask, where exactly is the front of this building on the lot? There is no sidewalks on either side of this lot. So where is this building sitting?
It faces East Main Street.
Yeah, it faces East Main Street, and there's a sidewalk on East Main Street. It does currently terminate on Newton Street with a handicapped accessible sidewalk there. But, and we show that strip coming across. We want to have a sidewalk that will tie into that and then come back into the rear of the building on the Newton Street side.
So are you going to be doing the sidewalk, or is the town going to do the sidewalk?
No, the town actually built a sidewalk on our property, but I'm not taking issue with that this evening, but I'm showing you where it is. So the sidewalk, for the most part, stays in the layout, and then it comes onto the property at the corner of East Main and Newton. And then we would tie into that with our sidewalk. And that'll go along the building, as it's shown. And the 5-foot sidewalk is at the back of the building, if you will, the Newton Street side of the building.
So you're saying there's no sidewalk on?
Well, I look at the building. I look at this every single day when I open up the curtains. I live on the second floor of 11 East Main, and to the best of my knowledge, there is no sidewalk on either side of his lot. There's sidewalk downtown, and there's a sidewalk on East Main by the bank, but I don't believe there's a sidewalk.
No, there's a sidewalk there.
I could be entirely wrong there. Across
Yeah,
the front?
I thought there
Okay.
was too.
I can't tell because there was so much dirt. So many piles of dirt.
It's true, it's not the most navigatable sidewalk, but there is one.
If you want to let Marnie share her screen, she's got the sidewalk on Google.
Oh, yeah, you're going to look it up on Google? Okay. Are you going? Thank you.
Thank you. There's the sidewalk.
Is your name Mary? Yeah. Mary, what's your last name? Quirk. Quirk, Mary, okay. Can you see the picture here? So that's the corner. Morrow's is across the street. Right, there's the, oh, there we go.
Yeah, there's the bank.
Those are the new sidewalks put in relatively recently through the DPW.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, Steve Morrow, Morrow's Village Cafe, and 2 Main Street in Southborough. My concern with this project is the water that's going to be produced downtown. He already has 2 sides of the property that are abutting wetland, and then I'm wondering how many gallons per day are going to go back into the soil here. Originally, when he first signed up to do this, in the garage that was there, it was 365 gallons a day was allowed. And he's gone back, I think, you can correct me, Peter, 3 or 4 times, and now you've got it up to 765 gallons. Now, is this new project going to be even more than that?
No, the Board of Health approval is still the approval that we have for the project.
I'm
And
sorry, I can't hear you.
the Board of Health approval that's been granted for the project is the same approval that we're going forward with the project today. It's no different.
Because I went through the files at the Board of Health today, and back, you started out with 365 gallons a day, and then the last ones, I think you're up to 765 gallons a day. And then I also have a concern of the line sight of cars coming out of Newton Street, having that building so close to that corner. They cannot be able to see to come through that intersection. And also, I was wondering how many cars a day do you say are going to come in and out of this parking lot? And what are your hours of operation?
Well, there's going to be 4 residents here, so those would be 24/7. The commercial use would follow the guidelines that are allowed for those 4 uses that I'm seeking. I don't know. I mean, the marketplace will determine that. I don't think the hours would be much different than the hours that possibly go on with any other business in downtown Southborough, so.
Mr. Moore, have you noticed any, mitigation? There's been a lot of construction, a lot of work on infrastructure. Have you seen an improvement?
Please don't get me started with that. It has been an
Okay.
absolute nightmare. I cannot believe that they let all of those spaces go to do these bump outs. I'm extremely concerned if a fire truck, police car, ambulance tries to come downtown at noontime, there's nowhere for anybody to go to get out of their way. That was, I let all the boards do all the decision, and it was the biggest mistake of my life to not attend those meetings.
Not to
see
belabor
what
it.
we have today.
But I was actually asking about the drainage specifically.
The drainage, you can come see the puddle that sits in front of my parking lot.
To my house.
Yep.
Okay.
It's, again, you're going to be adding more water on top of water problems that we already have. And I would really, really consider the size of this project. It's going to change our entire downtown. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi. My name is Karen Cannell. I live at 15 Main Street, and I don't think I'm a direct abutter, but I manage and own a property on House Court. Do you know where that is? Okay. So I think it will be really nice in my lifetime, hopefully, to see something constructed on this lot that has been kind of an eyesore for decades. But I have a lot of questions just from coming here. This is the first time that I've really even been noticed about this project. So my questions are, is that part of Main Street, is it still part of the state road, or is that, did the state road end before this parcel?
Peter, do you know the answer? I can tell you what I think I know about that.
I mean, it's a public section of roadway, but I don't think the state has jurisdiction over it.
Well,
know that.
I
I'm
think-
not entering on it anyway, so.
Yeah. Well, Karen, I think you're alluding to, remember when they did Main Street? And then the project ended under the state TIP program, and then the DPW picked it up with another funding source for the town to make improvements. And I think the area that 2 East Main Street is in is under the local section.
Okay, so we, the town, are responsible for that section of the road?
I think that's correct. I don't think the state plows that. Usually if a state plows it, it's state jurisdiction.
Okay. And are there any businesses that are not allowed on this parcel? Like a strip club?
Yes, if you look at section 172 so in the town code, there is a section that lists all the different zones and what's allowed in them. If you go to the one that is for the downtown
Okay,
district,
but
if you call me, I can show it to you, but I can
Okay.
tell you which ones are allowed by
Okay, and
reading.
from memory, is a strip club available? No? Okay. What about a cannabis shop?
We have very particular code about adult entertainment and for marijuana medical use in town.
Okay. What about a bar?
I would have to look. And then again, these are questions that if you ask, the building commissioner is the zoning enforcement officer, and we can give you some guidelines of what we feel is accurate, but he's the ultimate one who determines the use, whether it's allowed in that zone based on what is written in the code.
Well, the four uses that Mr. Bemis is asking for are retail sales and service, ice cream shop, sandwich shop, candy shop, other specialty food service establishment, serving walk-in customers, drive-through service prohibited, restaurant with indoor seating or outdoor seating on an adjacent patio, drive-through services prohibited, personal services such as barber shop, beauty salon, tailor, or shoe repair.
Okay. So, but those are what the applicant is asking for, but we don't know if in the future, if someone could open a strip club, a bar, a cannabis shop,
Well, they'd have to,
gun shop.
well, so those things are not allowed in zoning or only in
Okay.
particular zones, and this isn't that. And if there was any change from these four, they would have to come back to the planning
Okay,
board.
thank you. That's my answer. I didn't hear what you said, but it must not be for public.
Oh, no, it is for public. I don't always turn this on. So if you look under section 174-8.12, and if you want, you can call me tomorrow and I'll show you how to get there. There's permitted uses by special permit from the planning board. So if in the future, the owner wanted to propose a different use there than what is allowed, because the parking is based on the use of what's prescribed and the amount of space for that use. If they change that, they have to come back here to get permission for it. But those uses are listed under permitted by special permit. And just realize that, you know, mixed use is part of that with residential and commercial use. Microbrewery is listed there. Veterinary animal hospital, a medical or dental office, multifamily dwelling not to exceed 10 units. So if you look at that list.
Okay, all right, so this is answering a question. So you could put in a microbrewery, some people would call that a bar.
Well, it depends if the code indicates that you can actually serve there. You can have a brewery that distributes, I would think, but again, that's code enforcement.
But that's not what's being asked for
That's
here.
not what's
Yeah,
being.
no,
At
I
this
made that
time.
clear, is that if
Right.
someone comes forward and wants to pursue that, they have every right to come back.
You would have to come back and ask.
We're
But
not
for,
trying to do- We didn't try to do that.
for right now, he's asking for those four that I read.
Right.
Okay, so that's.
And that would be part of this permit if it were to be approved.
Okay.
Those uses would be approved. Anything else would require him to come back.
Okay, because I'm looking 10, 20, 30 years into the future, and what I know from my background is that there's not enough parking at this property, that the parking is not, there's going to be accidents there. It's too narrow a entryway. There should be an entryway and an exit way. And the other thing, and one of my neighbors made a really good point, when you look at the illustrations that were provided, there isn't a clear entry point. So it looks a little bit like, it just looks like, what door do you go in? If there were large windows, you know, something that was more inviting for like a retail or some kind of establishment, like I'm envisioning like on Newbury Street, they have paneled doors which you can open, and that would do a lot of things for this property. It would open the inside out. It would make it very inviting. Right now, it looks to me, this is my opinion, Mr. Bemis, it looks like a medical building. And just as a townsperson, I've invested heavily in this town, and I'm delighted that you're finally going to do something with this property and not just use it as a wasteland. I would just ask, did you consider making it smaller? Mr. Bemis, did you consider making it
Through
smaller?
the chair, no, I did not, and I will not.
Okay, thank you for your honesty. So those are pretty much my questions. my comments, you heard, there's it's just a little bit hokey. It's a dangerous situation that we're creating by having a narrow entryway, and then once you're in the parking lot, if this is going to be, a Yeoman's or a sandwich shop, people coming in and out of the building very quickly, not staying for hours, but in and out. It's, in my opinion, not safe what the plan is for the turnabout there. So I would ask, maybe we can do something better. The only other thing that I wish to ask, or not ask, but say, public statement, this particular property is really, it's like the cornerstone of our entire village and town, right? I think we can all agree with that. It's amazing to me that we didn't have to go to ZBA, that this seems to be kind of like on a fast track. When I personally had to go through 18 months of historic demolition delay bylaws, and I had to present 3D renderings to a panel before I even got to somebody that could give me a permit. And I would also ask, because I'm a visual person, I think a lot of people are visual, what's presented to us as townspeople to be able to judge, is this something that I support in my town or something that I oppose? We're looking at it on, 8 by 11 printouts. I had to provide actual 3D, yes, little houses made out of foam. For a historic commission, I had to incur that for to build a house here. I think it would be nice if I, as a taxpayer and townsperson, could see more. This is just one-dimensional. And is there more, and I'm just not seeing it?
Well, as far as fast track, this is the first hearing. This is the opening of the hearing. So I don't know if it's going to take 2 hearings or 22 hearings. We don't know at this point.
But we do know that he's going to have another meeting on the 16th.
Right.
Okay, well, that's 2 in 1 month.
Well, so that's our next planning board meeting, and that's how we usually move things along from one meeting to the next.
I please understand from my personal history with the town of Southborough that I had to wait 18 months going through a demolition delay fiasco. So that's my purview. That's what I'm thinking about. So maybe it's not fast-tracked, but there's no ZBA, and this is the first meeting. And are there more renderings that I could look at that would make me feel better about this?
So I don't think we're going to get little three-dimensional houses. I've never been through a demolition delay, but the
You're
planning.
welcome, and thanks to me, the law was improved upon because what they were doing was illegal. My rights were infringed upon.
So we've never required that at the.
Not
planning
anymore.
board.
You're welcome.
In the downtown district, when the bylaw was written, it was written that the special permit and the site plan for the downtown district come to your elected planning board, not to the zoning board.
Okay. So I understand the spirit. I'm delighted that something is finally going to happen. I just think that it would be nice if some of the safety issues and some of the impact, like we're talking about lighting, which is important, but I think we should start thinking about the scope and scale. The other thing, not to belabor it, but as a visual person, I think I read that it's 90,000 square feet?
Only 9.
9.
9,000, okay. So is that the structure or the whole lot?
The structure.
The structure. So just as an example, if anybody knows, if there's any architects or engineers, what's the size of the town hall? Just so I can,
Not a clue.
It's much larger.
it's much larger?
If you look, Peter, what's the footprint dimension?
Yeah, it was 75 by 40.
75 by 40, so it's like.
Town hall's probably twice that.
Can we think of any can we think of any buildings that maybe we all might know that would be about the same size, so that I can imagine what that would be like?
You can go onto the town GIS mapping, and different lots around town, they show the footprint of the buildings.
But
There's
the
a little
planning
measure
board
tool.
doesn't, that's not something you're thinking about. That's not your job. You're not thinking about how big is this, how will it sit on the lot? That's not the job of the planning board.
That, we are thinking about that. but
Okay.
This is the first hearing, and I offhand don't know what another 9,000 square foot building in town. And also, we have an engineering consultant that reviews the project, and we haven't heard back from them, and they get into all the minutia.
Great, okay. All right, well, I would just ask that the planning board, thank you for your job, and thank you for doing it, and thank you for looking into the safety issues. At what point does I think there's a safety officer that looks at the building and the plan?
Well, the plans go to both the police chief and the fire chief.
Okay,
We
and
haven't-
that will happen in the future.
They've been sent there, we just haven't, I don't think we've received any comment back.
Not yet, just
Colleen will make sure they get
Okay.
back to us on that.
All right, well, thank you very much.
Thank
All the
you.
best.
Just a note, in 2021, there was a whole process for downtown district, which went to annual town meeting. So this was a process, multiple public hearings around what that overlay is, so what Mr. Bemis is presenting to. A lot of this, so we've seen Mr. Bemis in this lot probably it was pre-COVID. It was pre-COVID, and we denied him his special permit because of scale and scope, because of many of the issues that you're raising. Downtown district bylaw went into, it was written by our EDC and select board, and that went to annual town meeting and was approved. So the downtown district is an overlay to allow developers to be a little bit more, I guess the current zoning was restrictive. It was hard to kind of get a special permit. So it's not that it's easy, but it gives a little bit more opportunity for developers to develop. There's also a downtown district design guidelines. So within that design guidelines, we present different renderings of what things should look like downtown. So there are those things that are available for you as the public to look at, for also us to reference as we're thinking about this project. We do think about safety. We think about all of the things that you've asked about. And I just wanted you to be aware that this has been a long way running. So what might seem fast-tracked, we've seen Mr. Bemis, before. He was rejected. He's come back now 5 years later for this project. So there is a little bit of history there.
Anyone else?
Yeah, hi, I'd like to address, my name is Jamie Falcone. I'm a lifelong resident of Southborough, and obviously I live on Newton Street. I'm not considered an abutter because I'm like 301 feet, not 300 feet, but I'm certainly within spitting distance of the structure. I do want to say again that I've lived in town for 50 years. I have walked up and down Newton Street my entire life. I've walked up and down the railroad tracks my entire life, probably more times than all of you combined can count. And, no offense to the board, I understand that there's been a lot of revitalization and, designing and different things happening with the EDC. And I do almost feel like a lot of that has been, followed in some of what he's proposing. I do want to consider the fact that there was a mention of the 40% residential above, and I don't think we got a clear answer on that. I did want to state that I am, like I said, I am a business owner in town as well. I'm not against the building and the structure and so forth. I am in, conjunction with all the people that want to see the revitalization of downtown, see more people come to the Southborough Center. I actually don't know how many people you can get to that small center, but I do feel like this structure is overbearing for the size lot. I'm on a 0.33 acre, about right up the street, and he's on 0.45, and he's trying to use like 90% of the lot. I noticed like impervious portion of the lot is probably expanded and enhanced upon. It definitely was only just one small building that I could remember there. And 23 parking spots seems really excessive. My main concern with this whole project is someone else brought up safety. I do see people come around the corner on Main Street, to Newton Street and step on the gas and they literally floor it to get up to the medical center because they're late for the doctor's appointment. I've literally almost been killed 3 times on Newton Street getting my mail in front of my house. So safety is definitely a concern, but I'm here today because of water. This town has allowed a bunch of development in and around me. Might I mention that 14 Newton Street is built in 1800, not in the 1800s, but 1800, so it's a 225-year-old home that was dragged by horse and oxen from its current location, from the reservoir down here when the reservoir was being built to its current location on Newton Street, so it was the first house there. And I have a serious water problem. Like some of the people down here downtown, I know like my business is on a septic. I know that there's a considerable amount of water and drainage that's happening. There's a wetlands that you're calling on your plan here that never used to be wetlands. Like the town created those wetlands by letting the parking lots and the solar fields and all the stuff up the street at the medical center being built. I don't know how much of that was like, planned and permitted and so forth. But I really feel like the water is the main concern here for me, and that some studies really need to be done about not just, I get that you're trying to run off and you got a place to push your snow and all this stuff, but you are abutting wetlands, which again, I guess you guys created because you let this huge parking lot up the street happen. I just don't want to see my basement flooded, and want to make sure that if there's something happens, my septic system is already failing, and my sump pump goes 24/7. I mean, it's still going 24/7. We haven't had rain in a while, 365 days a year, and it never used to do that. It's only just been in the last, I don't know, however, 10 years or so. It's been really becoming a problem. And I know downtown and Southborough just has a problem in general with water and drainage and so forth. So I think a real long, hard study needs to be looked at. I think someone, Steve said the numbers were askew on the reports. Like I said, I feel like the impervious portion that was inflated, and the way that they're going to deal with the water, that the runoff that they have is probably not proper or in keeping with what's around them. So basically, that's just my main concern. I know the parking lot's just basically an eyesore. I do remember when I was part of the Economic Development Committee that I did approach Mr. Bemis and recommended a pocket park be put in, because I knew it was going to be quite some time before there was any development happening there, and he actually didn't really even want to entertain the idea. Kind of laughed me out of his office. But I was concerned today when he mentioned some different things today, and I will quote him as saying, I want to keep the process moving. And another quote, I just want to get this done. I am quoting his words. And I understand that this is the first meeting, and you might not feel like it's been streamlined, but this is something that's been coming for a really long time. So I don't feel like it's something that needs to be approved in a couple of meetings, because some real long, hard thought needs to be put at what we're developing and putting there, and how it's impacting not just the downtown, but certainly the residents around it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jamie, is 14 Newton Street your address?
14, yes.
Okay.
Good evening, everybody. I'm John Walter. I live at 6 Newton Street, direct abutter behind him. And I think that a lot of people's concerns are about the uncertainties of things that are about to happen, right? People are generally scared of change. They don't know what this is going to bring, what that's going to bring. It's kind of a big question mark for a lot of people. And there's a lot of things that are kind of left unclarified at this point, you know, the plantings and some other miscellaneous items that are kind of, you know, at this point, he's a detail-oriented guy. Some of these things should already be kind of considered already, right? As far as the lighting is concerned, I know he's doing his best to kind of maintain some of that stuff. And I apologize, I haven't had a chance to brush up with all this stuff. I've got 3 young kids, and it's been a week and since I got the letter, and I don't have all the answers. As far as the lights are concerned, is there something we can do with the Kelvin rating on these? Can we keep them low, 3,500 to 5,000, instead of something brighter to keep things kind of mundane? Stormwater always seems to be a consistent issue with everybody in the neighborhood. I have an open well in my backyard that I constantly watch the water table because my garden's right next to it, and so I'm very aware of what the water's doing and when it's doing it. We've been lucky or unlucky this year with a dry season, so this year isn't a good barometer for any of that measurement. I've been moving snow my entire life, and when it comes to him moving snow on that lot and he's going to put it between the trees, is like, if you get more than 3 to 6 inches, where do you put the snow? Everybody from me to the medical center is sharing the snow on the road, trying to move it around because we don't have either driveway space or road space, or the town comes through and clears the sidewalk, and it's a real concern with what we do with that. It's just the same as the stormwater. We're all kind of in it together, but nobody has a good plan on how we're going to manage that, which you can't have that set in stone. You kind of just got to deal with it when you deal with it. Point of the traffic impact has been brought up, and yes, people come ripping down the road for their late doctor's appointments, and I agree with the line of sight issue and the setback, because even if you are at the stop line there, people cut that corner short quite consistently because they're always late. And I've got 3 young kids, and I'll tell you what it's like trying to cross that road to do anything in there. So a little bit of a concern. Also, if you're talking about these businesses in there, you're talking about an ice cream parlor, sub shop, whatever, trash is a concern. Because a lot of these people, you may or may not know that there's a lack of consideration by younger people today for a lot of different reasons. And they're more likely to just take their ice cream cone or their wrapper or their cup and chuck it out of the car or just leave it there. So do you have any considerations for that kind of thing? Is that strictly up to the business? Would you provide anything that, especially with a seating area behind it? There's already plenty of trash on the railroad tracks from people. What's that going to do, especially adjacent to the water concern? And then if that goes into the water, it goes under the road, and then does that plug up that culvert? What does that do over time, right? That's a whole other thing. Parking spaces, you talk about 4 units, and they're each going to be allotted 1 vehicle. Assuming that it's a single person with no kids or a girlfriend or a boyfriend, or what do they do with an alternate car in that situation? Are you going to restrict them to having 1 parking spot and then they have to park on the street, or they're going to take from the businesses? A lot of people work from home now, so 2 people might be working from home, and there's no consideration for that available space. I'm not necessarily here to stonewall things more than just hopefully smooth out some of these considerations and these uncertainties that people are generally afraid of. It's really just make it go as smooth as possible instead of just ignoring things. The stormwater keeps coming back. Jamie talked about the water in his basement. I've had water in my basement I've got images of it being a tenable lawn at some point, and it's the result of not necessarily just the development on Newton Street, but all the elevated areas around it, up on East Main Street, et cetera, behind us. And really, it's just a matter of how can we address some of these major concerns? Because these, you know, at the zoning meetings, it was always, we'll deal with that later, we'll deal with that later. And all this stuff is, we'll deal with it later. Well, this is kind of the here and now where it really needs to be addressed. So, other than that, those are kind of my high-level points. I don't really need returns on them, just need to be heard. Okay?
Thank you. Stormwater is a big concern, and as I said, we have a engineering consultant that will look at those figures and those calculations.
Well, they did that downtown when they did the intersection right there by the library. We always used to have a huge puddle there.
Yep.
And then a good friend of mine lives at the bottom of the hill there across from the school, and just because it was engineered, now his house is in jeopardy because of all the surface water that isn't actually being drained away. For 15 years, he's been fighting the town to do stuff. So just
So the puddle moved down the road?
Essentially, yes. You have to move the water, and it's got to go somewhere, and if it doesn't go in the drainage, then it's still surface water. So I can have separate conversations with you about that if you want to understand more, but the long or the short is, just because you say that you're dealing with it doesn't mean the intended result is basically, the intended result is not acquired, I guess. So just got to keep that in consideration.
Yes, thank you. All very good questions and comments. And as I said, this is the very first hearing, which is kind of a high-level introduction, so.
Say it now, 'cause I might not be here.
Yep, no, very good. Appreciate hearing from everybody. Yes, sir.
I'm Chris Robbins, 39 Parkerville Road. Several years ago, when I was on the Economic Development Committee, we talked to Mr. Tony Kwan, and one of the first things he offered to do was provide septic support for buildings in the downtown area. Now, he may have moved on and it may have been bought out, but it might be something we should explore. They got a huge septic system, and he was very serious about the offer, not only extending even to Town Hall. You have that capability. So for what it's worth, maybe somebody can check that out and might help the situation.
Thank you.
I'm Paul Carter, 6 Hillside Avenue. As the board knows, I'm an engineer. I've been a transportation engineer for over 30 years. I'll comment just briefly. Question of whether wheelchair ramp is on that sidewalk. There's a crosswalk that goes over to the bank. So it's important that there be a wheelchair ramp on that corner. In terms of where the driveway is and how big the driveway is, one of the things we normally do with an intersection improvements is move any access to any adjacent building as far away from the intersection as possible. I think that's what's shown on this plan. And I think that relates to how close the building is to the front, because where the parking is, you don't want the parking in closest to the intersection. You won't be able to access there. So the parking is shown on Newton Street, and the entrance is shown as far as possible from a safety point of view. In terms of drainage, I've watched, I live on 6 Hillside, I go by it every day. The town has done a lot of work on Newton Street for drainage. They ran the drainage all the way up that street. They also did a lot of work in the intersection. So there has a lot of drainage work been done. Not that it's going to solve everybody's drainage properties on their individual property. The last thing I'll say is that the village district was created in order to try and revitalize the downtown area, to have some mixed use, okay, to have some housing, okay? So this is the kind of thing that I see that village district was created for. It's not perfect. It would be nice if it's smaller. It's not be economical if it's smaller. It would have been nice if this would be a park. I moved to town 30 years ago when they were taking those gas tanks out. That's how long it's been. So I don't think we're going to get something better at that corner. So I think this is the kind of thing that that village district was envisioning.
Thank you. Anyone else? Anyone online?
Thirteen attendees, no hands raised.
You shall.
So the motion is for the planning board to continue the public hearings for 2 East Main Street mixed-use building, major site plan approval, and special permit downtown district to December 16th, 2024.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? So just, yeah. So just with the understanding, if we don't hear back from Fuss and O'Neill, that that will be continued again. Latrell, yes?
Stein, yes.
Houlihan, yes.
Demiria, yes.
Thank you, Peter. Thank you, everyone.
Peter, I'll get you those 2 contracts tomorrow so you can get the supplemental fees. As soon as you get that to me, I'll sign them and send it back, okay? Okay, thank you. And then we'll work on the affordable.
Do you want?
Motion for a 2-minute recess?
Second.
All in favor? Latrell, yes?
Stein, yes.
Houlihan, yes.
Demiria, yes.
We are back. The next item on the agenda is a public hearing, 26 Meadow Lane, Reservoir Meadows, major site plan approval, and special permit for lower impact development. Karina?
And also special permit for a major residential development with a flexible development.
Yes. Oops.
That's okay, it was going to come out. All right, so this is the public hearing notice for major site plan approval, special permits for major residential development and lower impact development, 26 Meadow Lane, Assessors Map 56, parcels 14 and 27. The Southborough Planning Board shall hold a public hearing on Monday, December 2nd, 2024, at 7:15 p.m. in the Thomas J. McAuliffe Hearing Room, second floor, Townhouse, 17 Common Street, Southborough, Mass., to consider the application of William and Christine Putri for the property located at 26 Meadow Lane for major site plan approval per 174-10, special permit for lower impact development per Town Code Section 174-13.3, and special permit for major residential development, flexible development, per Section 174-13.2. These hearings concern a proposal to construct 4 new buildings with 3 single-family units and 1 duplex clustered onto 3.48 acres, affording 4.66 acres of open space that is in the rear yards of the existing residences on the north side of Meadow Lane. This site is located in the Residential B zoning district. A copy of the application and plans may be viewed at the planning office at the Southborough Townhouse during normal business hours or at the Planning Board Agenda Center at www.southborough.mass.gov/agenda-center/planning-board-29. Any person wishing to be heard on the proposed plan should appear at the time and place designated or join virtually at the following link, www.southborough.ma.gov/674/virtual-meetings. Mimi Luttrell, Southborough Planning Board Chair. Would you like me to give you an update to how we got here? Okay. So if you recall, at the October 21st, 2024 Planning Board meeting, the applicant and his engineering representative, Peter Bemis, had a preliminary meeting at the Planning Board as required by the major residential development application requirements. On November 13th, submission number 1 was received from Peter Bemis, and it was filed with the town clerk. In addition, a legal ad was also filed with the town clerk. Submission 1 was forwarded to Fuss & O'Neill, our engineering consultant, on November 22nd. The legal ad was published in the paper on November 18th and November 25th as required. Submission 1 was provided to the planning board and to the town departments. We received green cards and white mailing receipts. I believe that was the 25th, approximately, back from Peter, which brings us to the meeting tonight, public hearing number 1 on December 12th. We received, let me just tell you what we got. I received an email from Open Space Preservation Commission Chair Freddie Gillespie with an explanation that they are hoping to be able to set up a meeting to review the documents. And in the past, the Planning Board would recommend the MRD project proponents meet with the Open Space Preservation Commission to go over the open space requirements. As a comment, I spoke with Bill Cundiff, the DPW director, today, and he gave me some preliminary comments verbally, which he will provide in a draft comment letter shortly. Some of those comments were, there's a water line on Valley Road along the toe of the slope of the property line that you should, address on the plan. The point discharge at the water line location, there's already some water concern there, and possibly mitigate that point discharge. But he will draft that in official comment letter, and when we get that, we'll forward it to you. Okay? There are some, let me me see, you addressed all that. And that's what we have so far. When we receive further town department comments, we'll forward them to the board. And we are, again, this one, we have the contract from Fuss and O'Neill for the application review, and I'll give that to you tomorrow morning. And once you provide that, I'll sign that, and they'll start their review.
Thank you, Karina. Hello, Mr. Beamus. Welcome.
Thank you. Peter Bemis, Engineering Design Consultants, and again, for the record, I would ask Ms. Braccio, when she's available, to review your tape so she can stay current. So she will stay current with our application, because it's a special permit for the 3 separate permits we need from you. So to start, we are also before Conservation. We have 2 permits we need from them. A notice of intent was filed, and a stormwater management permit application. This site will alter more than 1 acre of land and does have activities within the buffer zone of the wetlands. So we need those permits. We have been before the Board of Health, and we have approval for a community soil absorption system for this site that will support the proposed development. We would anticipate going back to Board of Health and amending that when we have Planning Board's approval of the layout, because it's a function of the units and where the septic tanks and the sewer manholes are located particularly. So once the site plan is locked in, then we can get that permit re-upped. So again, it's an 8.5 acre development area that's being reviewed. And we looked at this from both a conventional and from a open space flexible development perspective. The open space plan is what's in front of you now on the screen, so I'm going to start with that. It's the best way to open the project. So on that 8.5 acres, it will support 6 building sites conventionally. We don't think that is a good use of this property. It will alter a lot more land than we would be able to preserve. By clustering on 3.48 acres, we can set aside 4.66 acres of open space and create a real valuable open space in that there are abutting properties that have what we call scenic views, meaning that they have the ability to not look at a home behind them, and they'd be able to maintain that. Whereas if we were to develop it as a 6-lot conventional plan, they wouldn't have that opportunity any longer. So there's some benefits to our immediate abutters. And then for the clustering, we have basically less activity, and we can do it in a more controlled manner. So the cluster is our preferred treatment for the site, and that's what our focus will be on. The site has a history. This property was used as a recreational ski operation for a number of years, as well as a private airstrip. So there's a runway that goes from Valley to the DCR property. That runway would be removed with this proposal, eliminating about an acre of impervious area, which would be good. And as part of the proposal, however, we didn't just stop there and say, okay, well, we've mitigated stormwater. We're going to mitigate 100% of the stormwater from each of the development sites as well. So each home will have a roof drain system that will collect, transport to an infiltration system. The proposed driveways will also include stormwater collection systems, treatment systems, and that will get infiltrated on site as well. And any overflows from that would tie in the municipal system so that we're not putting water back out onto the street in any area. Wetlands are preserved. Buffer zones, for the most part, are preserved with this proposal. The activities, the reason why we have to go to conservation is because we're going to remove asphalt, so we have an activity that has to occur adjacent to the wetland resource area. The units, there are 3 single-family homes. There is one proposal for a single unit that would have 2 dwelling units in it, so a duplex. So we have a total of 5 housing units with the proposal, 6 in the conventional plan, so we more than satisfy the requirements for pursuing the flexible special permit. Under major residential, the flexible plan will provide the most flexibility to the site and allow us to reduce density. We have significantly more open space than development area if we do the flexible plan. The flexible plan will allow a more traditional layout. We don't have to put homes behind other homes with long meandering driveways. Each driveway would then be able to come right off of the fronting street that's there. The flexible plan does allow a more diverse housing unit. The duplex will not look like a duplex to the abutting homes. It's being designed in a manner that has it appearing from the street as if it's a single-family home, which we thought was important. We have a much less sprawling development with the flexible plan. We have to secure a low-impact development proposal from you. As part of that work activity, we are minimizing the amount of grading and clearing that's needed of our 8.5 acres. Again, by densifying it, we can do that. The clustering does achieve LID credits, and the watershed management of that allows us to take stormwater from that cluster and then infiltrate it in kind within that affected area, so that we can address the regional stormwater impacts. We've done extensive soil testing. The plan you put up there shows all the test bits that have been done out there, so we pretty much know that this ground can support the proposal. Again, by clustering, we can reduce heat island effect, reduce impervious areas. We've got planting areas where we're being able to maintain buffer zones to the wetland resource areas that are there. So I look forward to your support of the flexible development, the site plan, and the low-impact development components of the site. I'd be happy to answer any questions. We could kind of walk through the plan set. Grading-wise, we're pretty much on contour with a lot of this development. There won't be a lot of cuts and fills to support it. It would be sheet 4 and 9, kind of provides that. Colleen, if you don't mind. So it'll show you the details of the driveway coming in that will serve 2 buildings that are at the rear. Those are 26A and B. We've got a 24A and B, which is a duplex to the left of that, with the driveways coming in off of Meadow. And 28 is the one to the right, coming in again off of Meadow. We've got an existing home at 30 that relies upon the runway that comes off of Valley. So we have to continue to maintain that driveway, or the runway portion that's their driveway, to that residence. But the rest of the runway would be eliminated to the west of where their driveway terminates. It connects to their home. There are other community soil absorption systems that are located to the east, northeast of our site area. Those are not affected by our proposal. Part of the open space that we're designating does have that soil absorption area under it. We've taken away that land area, if you will, from the overall analysis of what is open space and not open space as far as the credits for it, but we're well in excess of your minimum requirements to support the number of units that are here. Based upon that. I'm sorry, you're not. Yep. Sure. So there's a soil absorption system, community, there's one that's on its own lot, that's to the northeast of our site, and then there's one that's actually located here now, you can see, that's an easement. That the boundary of that is still there. We're not affecting it in any way. It's just being absorbed as part of the open space for the overall project. We would have created, basically, it would have created an island of land that had no frontage, so it made no sense. And we actually have an approval not required plan for your consideration tonight to absorb that lot back into the total land area, making it the 8.5 acres. So that's pretty much it. We do show all the requisite utility connections. That's sheet 5 of 9, showing the water, the sewer. It does tie into septic, but the sewer lines that go from each home. The stormwater collection systems, that's all on sheet 5 of 9. The details for the collection of the stormwater, the infiltration systems, that's on sheet 6, and 7 of 9 is the stormwater management plan. 8 of 9 was the open space plan, the colored plan that shows you the land key areas and how we complete the math for the analysis. And then sheet 9 and 9 is the conventional plan, which we presented to you informally prior to this submittal. And then there's a standalone sheet 1 of 1, which is the SWEP. And then there's a low-impact development plan that addressed a few other specific items, groundwater gradients, things like that. So it's a complete set. We know we have to go to Fuss and O'Neill for review, so prepared to continue, but I'd like to solicit any board information or public information. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much. Mr. Stein.
So you're coming back on the 16th, and same deal.
Same deal, yeah. If we don't get Fuss's comments back, I won't waste your time.
So can we just kind of revisit the runway situation for a second?
Sure.
So I wish that you had the easel up like in the good old days, so we could.
So, that it is difficult. Go to the color one though, Colleen. It's a little easier, I think, to see it.
Yeah. Can we just kind of like take a
8 of 9.
minute on the runway?
Right. So if you zoom in a bit, Colleen, and we can do it in pieces and kind of slide left and right. So if we go all the way to Valley, you'll be able to see it better, and then we can just track it coming right across. I know it fades out because we're trying to illustrate all this information so you can see it better. Can you continue to go all the way to the right? Yep. Keep going. Thank you. So at Valley, you can see the strip, right, as it comes in, and that just keeps going. This plan is showing the easements that are there more so than the pavement, but that's where it is. Like, the only thing I can say is if we go to the existing conditions plan, if you really want to see the actual pavement, let me see if I show it on that one. You see, that's where it fades out because it's such a light gray. It's hard to see. But yeah, if we go to sheet 2 and 9, just try that because I can walk you down that. Zach's got some leaders on there so you can see where the runway is. So again, if we start at Valley, and you can see the leaders touching the pavement on the south, and it's touching it again on the north.
So sorry for my ignorance, but does the runway actually like intersect right with Valley Road?
Oh yeah, you'd think of it as being a road.
Yeah.
You would not think of it as being anything but that. And
And
yes,
are you going to remove like how much of it?
we're going to leave 12 feet because the abutter at 30 is entitled to gain access to the garages that he has at the rear of his home. That's how Mr. Calander basically got in and out of that property.
So which 30 feet is going to remain?
The 12 feet will remain. It's 30 odd feet. I mean, there's probably some sections that could be 40 feet wide.
On the west side? From Valley to 30?
Where's
From Valley to number 30, yeah, and we were gonna stop it right at the west side of their
So
drive.
it's right, can you just put the pointer back to where 30 is for a sec?
If you keep going.
looking, you
if
gotta
keep
zoom
panning,
out.
You'll see
Yeah.
30. We can just jump to 30 now.
Go the other way.
But you gotta pan down now.
Oh.
There you go. You're doing good.
Is it not loading?
There you go. So that's the runway, as you can still see it coming across. it says access and utility easement in the center of it, and you can see the 100-foot buffer zone from the wetland coming down. And so we would be keeping the to the extent we can, the southern portion of it.
So here is
as
the runway, right?
No.
No, where are we? We're right
there,
here.
that's the
Here's
runway.
the runway,
The hand is in the runway.
and here's number 30.
Number 30, and we're gonna stop it right on the west edge of their driveway. And
Here.
Right, and tie back.
So this will all remain paved.
It's 12 feet wide.
Okay.
New pavement, or you cutting
No,
back?
I would cut it back. I mean, we can saw cut that and remove it and then put, I would assume we'd put like a meadow grass back.
So,
I don't see it being a lawn.
and then, can you zoom out, please, Colleen? So what's gonna, like, just from a construction standpoint, you're gonna rip that out
Mm-hmm.
and do what?
And then put back, we'd want a meadow to return. There'll be new homes that go in the center of that, obviously,
Right.
where it says land of Poutre 39 Falmouth. But the west end of that would be all eliminated and revert back to meadow.
Okay. This is my first runway removal ever, so.
I had the pleasure of removing Mr. Satterfield's runway as well with the Bartolini project for the driving range. So, yeah, there is some satisfaction in seeing all that asphalt go away. Because that was probably as long as this one.
I think I'm just gonna wait personally until we get Fuss and O'Neill, so.
Okay.
Thank you.
Ms. Houlihan.
Hi, Mr. Bemis. Welcome back. So I just, again, like, haven't spent a lot of time. I do rely on Fuss and O'Neill. I know we had the opportunity, I think the last time we had Mr. Williams speak up. I know a lot of people are here to speak, so I want to hear from the neighbors. So the proposal right now, the driveways for the duplex and the one house are coming right off Meadow Lane versus coming off the main road, that you're building a separate road to include to the back two houses.
It's a driveway.
Or driveway, sorry.
Right.
Can you help me understand, like, it just seems, so now we have 3 entranceways into this small area development. Can you help me understand why they would have direct access to Meadow versus via the driveway that you're putting into the development?
We're trying to let them represent the homes that were going to be built at that location. I mean, no matter what, there were going to be 2 homes built there, left and right, be it a conventional plan or not. What we're doing is eliminating a road up the middle of this. So that's the key difference, if you looked at the conventional versus this. And then obviously the density gets reduced. But the home that's to the right, I think, is probably the easier one to understand.
Hold on. Colleen, can you put on 7? That's the one I'm looking at. I think it's the
Looking at
best
sheet 7?
depiction. Yeah,
Okay,
sheet
that-
7 is the best depiction for me. And I guess from a flexible development, this is my first flexible development plan as a planning board member. Are there stipulations that you can't have, it would be a road versus a driveway if 4 driveways come off of it?
I did not read a restriction in your zoning
Okay.
bylaw relative to that. We've done a flexible development as part of a conventional subdivision plan. Basically, the first time I got involved in this was a 8-lot subdivision, which was allowed. The planning board, when we had to go back to get the approval again, said, I think you can get more lots, so show us how you would do that. And if you do, you could consider doing a flexible development. And they did allow us to do that for the project at Lorenzo Drive,
Oh, right,
Rossi
yeah.
Estates. So that was like the first time we kind of went the other way with it, where it was a regular plan that was going to be a subdivision, allowed the density to go up. We have a duplex there as well, that hasn't been built yet. But that's the first time that I had done one here in town. And then it's been done a couple other times. The church project.
Same,
Yep,
developed,
the
same,
east side
yep.
of the church, we did one there. So they're on the smaller scale, not big, large projects, which kind of the bylaw might anticipate, that you look at flexibility. They're smaller, but I think you get the same benefits, if not better benefits, particularly at this site, because there's just a lot of open land here that would just be developed otherwise, and we can cluster this and keep it smaller. But by keeping it smaller, it does shed off more stormwater. So that's why I said we weren't going to just rest on our laurels and say, oh, we eliminated an acre of pavement for the runway. We don't have to do any more. That made no sense to us. So we are collecting stormwater from every building unit so that no one can get impacted with stormwater here. And we did enough soil testing to prove out that would work. The driveways,
So, sorry, just to interrupt. So you're saying is the spirit of kind of what's on Meadow Lane is single-family homes with single driveways. So you
Right.
think it's just in the spirit to be able to keep that
yeah.
and maintain it versus having this little mini development among these,
And I'll say
okay.
the one obviously caveat to that would be obviously the duplex. They're probably, I don't know if they did any duplexes with what they had done, but there certainly are up on Carriage Hill. I know those have to be duplex-related units, if not all of them are. I'm not sure if they had singles or duplexes for all of them. But on that street, there may not be. But the point is that the flexible development is also seeking to have some variation in housing and opportunities. So someone who might not be able to afford one of these new homes as a single-family home probably may have a better opportunity being able to afford the side of a duplex and still having the benefit of living in this neighborhood where they probably couldn't afford it otherwise. So, and I'm sure that's how, when the board entertained the one at Lorenzo Drive, thought the same thing, no one's going to be able to afford to live in this neighborhood without this opportunity to have the duplex housing unit. So that's what I would say. As far as the driveways, there's good separation. We collect stormwater at every one of them. We really made it a point so that no water is going out onto Meadow Lane. There are catch basins located on the corners of these driveways to prevent that. So, a lot of thought's gone into this so that we didn't just we didn't just come back and say, okay, we've eliminated enough impervious area, we're good. No, we made it as if we didn't eliminate any of it. And we had to make sure it was good regardless. So 100% of the stormwater is captured and treated. Does that answer it? Sorry.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yeah, please.
For stormwater management, what's the monitoring post-construction for that? You know, off the top of your head?
It's extensive. There's an O&M plan.
Right, so you have a stormwater pollution prevention plan that dictates what happens during construction and then also post-construction, where the owner signs off that he will maintain, and there's a maintenance agreement with an inspection schedule and all that. So the owner signs off that he will maintain the cost of maintaining the stormwater, repairs, et cetera, until the homeowners association takes it over, and then they take on the responsibility of it. And then conservation has a schedule of reports that are required to be submitted as part of their stormwater management permit. So I can't remember the frequency of it. It's every...
Typically it's biannually, they have to do the inspection, but you have to keep an annual report.
An
You have
annual
to keep
report.
them- I think that we had 5 years in the O&M plan. So
Right.
they have to keep them consistently as well, so they're made available. But we did provide you with a copy of the O&M, because you wanted it in writing. There is an O&M plan, there is a
Yep.
SWEP plan.
Yep.
But the Conservation Commission really has I don't want to say you don't have jurisdiction over it, your lid is kind of causing us to give it to you anyways, but
Yeah.
S&P really is the one that is the stick, if you will.
They have the ongoing monitoring afterwards. So for site plan and major residential development, et cetera, it's this process now that establishes that the stormwater is acceptable and that an HOA will take it over and the homeowners association docs will be reviewed by town council to make sure that it includes those features like the septic system is common and the drainage is the responsibility of the development. Okay?
Thanks.
Okay. And there's an O&M plan that's part of that too, operations and maintenance plan, that they have to clean certain things out, keep the basin in good order,
Thank you.
And then this will alter more than an acre of land, anticipating that it's going to all be done at the same time. So that would require an EPA permit as well. We identified that in the list of permits that we need.
Sorry, and then I just had like a plan question. So there's, on page 3 and 9, there's like these little symbols that I couldn't find on the symbol page.
Oh, dear.
And I just didn't know what they were. So I don't know if it's electrical outlet,
Where are you looking?
and it's 3 of 9. It's on every home, right in front of every
Oh,
home.
that's the septic tank.
Oh, that's the
Yes,
septic tank,
Because
okay.
we have no sewer here in our
Okay.
community, other than a couple of fortunate nonprofits, each home has a septic tank to collect the solids, and then the effluent will go through a conventional sewer system, so those are sewer manholes that are traveling through, and that's why I said to you, we have to go back to the Board of Health for this, because the
Okay.
plan's a little different than what the concept that we had originally submitted to them. So when you folks approve this as a site plan, that these are the homes that are gonna get built, this is where they're gonna get located, those septic tanks then can get locked in.
Okay.
And the rims and inverts and everything associated with the cross-country sewer line will then be approvable by the Board of Health.
Okay, and thank you, I appreciate that. And I think, like, that was my big question. And then I just had a question that I wanted to follow up with, is that first house, not the duplex, but the other one that's on Meadow Lane, it is very close. So what is the setback between the road and the porch or the walkway? It's like,
It's the garage, and it's 42 feet.
oh, the 42.8,
Yeah. and
there it
This is
is.
a Res B zoning district.
Okay,
So I want to say it's 30. And then the side yard is 30. And it is allowed reduced, but then when you do a flex development, you have to increase it. So that's why both of the duplex and 28, they are further away than the minimum.
okay, so it's
And we're
both
further
around
away than the
42.
minimum on the street as well.
Okay. And then I just see, so I see two driveways for that one house. Is that right?
2 driveways for the duplex, yes.
No, not for the duplex, for the house.
No?
The duplex is in, is that,
Yeah,
this is the duplex.
that's the
Oh,
duplex, right.
sorry.
And then there's just a
Okay.
single driveway for the 2 homes in the back.
Okay,
And then there's a single driveway for 28. 30, they have a driveway that comes in from a meadow, and then it loops
In the
around into the back. And we kind of showed you that, just so you could understand this better.
yep, okay. I think that's all I had, Mimi, for now. I also want to reserve my questions for Fuss and O'Neill feedback.
Thank you. Mr. Maria?
Hi, Peter. I'm just going to tag on to some of the comments that Marnie made. So in keeping with the spirit of having single-family homes along Meadow Lane and single driveways, it seems like the duplex doesn't really follow that. You've got 2 driveways and you've got a larger structure. So help me to understand, because we have an abutter that's made a comment last time, and I tried to appreciate in taking a closer look at the plan. It seems that you could put that duplex in a different location, and I was just wondering, had you considered that? Because it might hear that comment again tonight, so I thought I would just ask you directly.
This is where they preferred to put it. What I could do with the driveway, because when it did come up, I didn't do it, because I didn't want to create a change, and then I also didn't want to necessarily create more asphalt. But we could loop a driveway and then just have these offshoots left and right, so it would read as a single driveway in the front, and it can go left and right, or be a loop, so that you'd come in on the right and go off on the left. I don't
Like a
have to-
circular? Do you mean by like
Yeah,
a c-
yeah, you
a
could think of it like a
circular?
circular, it would be more like an oval.
Mm-hmm.
So if that was important, I hate to lose sight of the opportunity to do the duplex again for the diversified housing, and we're trying to make it not look like a duplex. So if that was important, we could do something with the driveway. So instead of having the 2 openings either have one and they break left and right, or we could do a loop, and then they basically break.
Yeah, and I just want to say, I really like the flexible development. I like the plan that you've come up with. I'm just wondering, what is the size of the duplex compared to the single-family homes? And is it possible to put it on another parcel and put a single-family home on
That's a good
Meadow?
point. We did provide you with the architectural on that. It's in the packet.
Yep.
It's certainly bigger than 28, but it's not, and it's probably just as large as the ones at the back. So square footage-wise, it's a large single-family home. It could very well be just a single-family home and be that size.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying. It's not extraordinary. I forgot what sheet it was, Colleen. It's towards the back, as far as the architectural. Yeah, it's in my cover pack.
But your point is like almost swapping, like could you do like lot 2 versus lot
Well,
1?
There
or
also
even-
will be more activity because you've got 2 driveways,
Right.
you've got potentially 4 cars, or depending on,
It's in the
so it's a little more activity, and I think for the neighbors, it would be nicer if it was in the back.
You were there, right, it's that one. And if you go back towards the latter part of the document, it's going to be there.
Is this the sizing? What are we looking for? Oh, yeah, I'm sorry, I missed that.
Could very well be the last page at this point, I'm sorry. There we go. And it's
Oh, yeah.
going to be sideways, so it's going to be hard to see. Maybe you can rotate it. So by rotating that garage, it doesn't face the front, whereas the one on the left does face the front.
I mean, just to be honest, with the roof lines, it looks like a duplex.
Okay.
And I understand what you're saying. It's probably about the size of the larger homes in the back. But I think there'll be more activity. You've got the double driveway, you've got more cars, and I would like to hear from the residents, but I think, that's just a consideration.
Understood. No, I fully understand your comment.
Yeah, thank you.
It's your turn.
We were just looking,
Sorry, just to clarify, this is one lot?
One lot, 8.5 acres, yes.
Okay, and you're not subdividing the lot?
Well, I am a little bit later with you because we wanted to sever off one corner for Mr. Poutre, who owns abutting land, but it was also to eliminate an internal lot line, which I had said to Karina I could do through, it's called an 81X. We could just do that without the board's review, but it seemed, when we met, it seemed to make sense. Let's go in, explain it to the board so you get it, why we're doing all of this. So we're making the development parcel. So
Okay,
at
so,
A&R
but all 5 units are on the same lot?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct, absolutely. This is
Yeah,
a
that's it.
site plan for an 8.5 acre development site,
go back.
Okay,
of which more than half is open space.
okay, we'll get to that now.
So Mimi, just to clarify, if, Colleen, go to sheet 7. There are some lines here, just want to make sure we understand them. On sheet 7, all right, where are you?
Sheet 7 is
Yes,
a SWEP
zoom.
plan.
Zoom out a little bit here. Where are we here? Oh, sheet 8. Go to sheet 8. I'm sorry, one more sheet. Okay, it's the color one.
that's-
And zoom to the center where you see the buildings, like pan over. Okay? So I think what was confusing is, see these lines right here? See, you have this dashed line, right?
Okay,
And then you
yeah, I
have
can
these
explain that.
definitions.
And then there's acreage listed on each.
Basically, those are, think of it like an exclusive use area. So
Okay.
you've got the condominiums up the hill. Maybe what they've done is carved off a small portion of their rear yard. In this case, we're doing the same thing, but because we're trying to treat this like single-family homes. So we want them to have a yard that they can enjoy.
So it's part of the HOA,
But
defining the HOA.
all of the land is part of the HOA. But-
Okay.
But each property owner would have the ability to have part of their yard.
Okay, All right, very good.
But we put a lot of thought into this.
Back to,
And the
back to,
pink- The pink is like common space, if you will.
yeah, we'll get there in a second.
All right, I'll let you go in your direction. And
So it's a multifamily development.
It's a multifamily development.
So the open space calculation is wrong. It's not a 35% calculation
Okay.
requirement.
We've kind of gone through this numbering before. I know that you've had your way of doing the math, and I think we're good with the way we've done it.
So I don't,
I'll be happy to walk through it. Go back to my sheet here. So I'm doing the same thing with you with the numbers. And I have to tell you, my son Zach is the one who had to put all these numbers together, so I'm going to trust that he did it. I'm going to say.
Which one are you looking at?
Oh, I'm sorry, sheet 8 of 9, because that has, the one that you have up on the screen now, too. That has the calculations on it. And I'm going to have to put my glasses down so I can see.
Bottom right corner.
Yeah, that's where all the math is, that's right.
so, where did it go? So the site area which shall be preserved in its natural state exclusive of wetlands shall be a minimum of 10% and shall increase in direct proportion to the percentage of multifamily units, up to a maximum of 20%.
Right, but we have one-fifth.
But detached single-family units on the same lot are considered multifamily in file. I'll read that to you in 1 second, Mr. Poutre. In addition, a minimum of 35% overall shall be dedicated as common open space.
I don't disagree with the 35%, right.
So, well, at the very minimum, 10 plus 35 is 45, not 35.
But I think you're taking the sentences apart, and that's why I don't have that section of the bylaw with me right now. Let's.
In addition,
I don't want to get bogged down in this.
so I have 100 legal opinions on what this is. So if you want me to trot them all out for the next.
101. I'm going to accept that you're not satisfied with the equation at this moment. I think we've done the math in a manner that could be deemed acceptable. Ultimately, I think that this should be ruled on by the building inspector.
No, we're doing the special permit.
Okay, then I'm good with the way.
So then back to the, where more than one detached single-family dwelling is on the same lot, then they shall be treated as multifamily dwellings for the purpose of this section, and they shall be governed by the provisions of section D5 below, which is what I just read to you. So that's the first thing, the calculation is wrong. So the second thing is open space. Wetlands, ponds, man-made retention areas should not be considered open space.
They can be in it, but they're not.
But they
part of
can't-
the calculation.
correct.
Agreed, yeah, and they've been accounted for and taken out.
Also cannot be used for drives. So the driveway, the runway that's in the open space, that can't be considered open space for the purpose of calculating.
Understood.
The driveway in the common open space doesn't count as open space for the purpose of that.
Let's do this. I'm going to go back through the calculation again, knowing how you're interpreting that, and see what the number is. And I will be prepared to have the way we've done it, the way you're asking for it, and see what that delta is. I'm not sure if it's significant or not, but if it is, then obviously we have to revisit this. And if it's not, and we can get to the same place, I would like to try to.
Okay. And what is naturalized space, which is naturalized land, which is called out on the
Right,
open
so what we
space
were
plan?
basically saying, like, because I think it's important to maintain some of the meadow appearance that's out here.
Yeah.
And particularly, I think some of our abutters would like that too. They'd like to continue to have the vista that they have.
A native meadow, you mean?
A native meadow, yes, but these other areas, the trees have already started propagating in those zones, and I think letting that be trees isn't a bad thing. So I think that's what Zach was trying to say here, is that, you know, we've got an area around the wetlands, that whatever's happening in there, that should be what happens. Let Mother heal herself in that zone. But if we're gonna have an area that it's meadow, we could mow that once a year, you know, something to that effect.
Oh, okay.
We're not trying to have lawn anywhere.
So that's like natural space left alone. The
Natural space
naturalized
around,
land.
Right, yes. In other words, we're not gonna do anything, we're not gonna do any maintenance in there. We're gonna just let Mother do her own thing. But in these mowed areas, if you don't, then you and I both know that those, the buckthorn and these other invasives will have a field day.
Right.
And there won't be any more meadow anywhere. You have to maintain it. So by doing like an annual mowing or biannual, whatever we decide to do, I'm fine with that. All we were just trying to do is recognize that there are some zones that have to be managed and other zones that shouldn't be touched.
On sheet 8 of 9.
Yep.
The open space notes, the land designated as open space on this plan is parcel A and parcel C. The only parcel A is that little piece that's going to be A&R'd into a different lot, and I don't know what the other parcels are.
I think parcel C was maybe what was the other soil absorption system area for the residential lot back in the day, and that note didn't get corrected.
Okay.
The A&R, bear with me, I know it was in my, what I.
Oh, that was
provided
parcel E.
you. Was it E?
Yeah.
Where the heck did C come from? That's the only thing I can think of.
Well, so the note in the parcels should match.
Yeah, I don't know, Mimi, right now, if that's, we'll correct it. I just don't remember what parcel, Zach would know, and I just don't know what parcel C was.
Parcel A and parcel C.
But it would have been one of the previous plans of land, would have been parcel C. But if it shouldn't be there, it will be corrected in an updated plan. There's one thing I won't sit here tonight and say that Jack's probably wrong, because he's usually not, because the guy that's been teaching him to do land surveying has really put his thumb on him pretty hard, and he's very careful. So I suspect that is something that's accurate. I just don't know what it was.
Oh, okay. Well,
Because he wrote that note, and there has to have been a parcel C at one point. And when we updated the plan to do the A&R, either that didn't get dropped, which could very well have happened, or it does pertain to something that was a previous parcel C.
okay,
I'll find out.
all right. I was going to blame you. I wasn't going to blame
No,
Zach.
You can't blame me. I didn't do it.
That's all I have for now. Any comment?
Freddie Gillespie, Chair of the Open Space Preservation Commission, and as I said in my email, the commission will be looking at this. Was there a prior hearing on this? Did I miss?
No, this is the opening.
Oh, 'cause somebody said at the last hearing they
Well,
heard the
let-
neighbor.
I did.
So as part of
Okay.
major residential development, one of the requirements is that the applicant comes in with their proposal at a discussion prior to applying.
Okay. So the chair did a great job of going over some of the concerns that I would be bringing to the Open Space Commission. I did have the advantage of Bill giving me a site walk. I don't know how many years ago that was, but so I'm 2 years ago, a little familiar with the land, and we discussed some of the concerns that I still may have some on the siting for the open space. But one question I have is, do you have a copy of the easement? Because it sounds like you have an easement that is paved, that goes to a house, but you're going to reduce the pavement, but the easement might still be the full width, and that could be a concern for being included towards the calculation. I appreciate reducing the paved area, but the easement in itself, if it's in existence, could still prevent that being counting towards the calculation of the open space. So I'd like to see a copy of that easement. And
Can I respond to that, Freddie?
I'm not the chair.
You have to come to a microphone.
Hi, I'm Bill Poutrain, the applicant. The easement does not specify for it to be paved whatsoever, so it's just access. So there's no, we don't need to provide a paved road. We just need to be able to provide access. That's what written in the easement, but we'll
Right.
certainly provide that easement to you.
And I'm just stating, I understand that, but even though it's not paved, having an easement that provides access may not meet the criteria. I'm not 100% sure till I read it, but may not meet the criteria for what's allowed in a open space calculation, because somebody else has a right to that land. And that means it may not always be forever, in perpetuity, natural, undisturbed open space. But we'll take a look at it. I don't have the answer to that. I'm just raising the issue now so it doesn't get bogged down later. And were there more lots on that same parcel, or are they all A&R'd? Besides the... They're all A&R, so they won't count towards any subdivision. Okay, we'll just take a look when the whole commission's together at all of the plans, but Mimi brought up a lot of the concerns. We'd be looking at the calculations and the wetlands, and the two separate parcels is also an issue. You know, like, there's some language in there that it's cohesive, but sometimes the greater good and having the clustering can mitigate some of that, but we'd want to take a better look at that.
So in the past, the Open Space Commission's been very helpful in terms of either supporting a flexible or a conventional plan. So is that something that you're intending to?
Yeah, we would look at that. The way Peter went through it tonight, I couldn't quite tell where the conventional was to compare, because I think we started off on it wasn't clear, so we need to look at it in more detail. But in theory, usually the conventional is the lesser desired, depending on how it's put together, because, you know, certainly doing clustering and having more undeveloped land, and it sounds like they've tried to put a lot of good components in this, but also, you know, the neighbors' concerns have to be addressed. But having single large lots and having a duplex does offer diversity of housing, which our master plan and housing plans all require, as long as it fits in with the scope of the neighborhood, which is also, I'm sure, an issue. But I'm only here for the open space component of it, and almost always a cluster type, even though this isn't a true cluster bylaw, it's better, the MRD, for than the conventional. But we'll look at it and write a letter on it.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
David Williams, 25 Meadow Lane, and I live right across the street from the proposed development. So I wanted to thank Mr. Murray. She accurately brought up what I had raised at the very first preliminary meeting. I don't think I or many of the people in our neighborhood are really thrilled with a duplex being right on Meadow Lane. Like, as you said, that's not really in fitting with the neighborhood. And I think the idea of putting it further back and having a regular single-family home on Meadow Lane makes more sense. The other concern is I want to make sure it's not overlooked that, I know you don't have it up there now, but we have 11 homes that are contributing to that shared absorption system. So the easement includes, we have a building with, that's a pump house really, and there's 2 tanks there. So and I know this is something, is this what Fuss and O'Neill would be reviewing as far as stormwater? But just to make you aware of the fact that our concern is, you know, water coming downhill, you know, getting into those tanks, because that's where the effluent goes up into the soil absorption system. So, and the other thing is, up where the leach field is, that's along where you're talking about the runway that would be cut back to 12 feet. Just to be aware of the fact that, I mean, it is a leach field. I don't know how that factors in open space, but we need access to that to mow it a few times a year. That we have to have that access. So I'm not saying that those can't be taken care of. I just want that to be something that is looked at and they're aware of it. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, Board.
Yes, sir.
My name is Tom Purcell. I'm at 29 Meadow Lane. Wanted to speak a little bit more about the concerns with water. Like David mentioned, we have a shared leach field, right? Each unit has their own septic. The water from all, or the effluent from all 11 septic tanks, they either are pumped or are gravity fed into a large chamber that sits right in front of the duplex. And we also have a small building that sits in front of the duplex. Leaching and soil absorption is a problem in the neighborhood. So you guys may have been involved in this before, other discussions. They built the Carriage Hill Estates up top, Carriage Hill. We're Carriage Hill Estates. That's Carriage Hill 55-plus condos. And when they built them, they basically took the top off the hill, and they took all of the fill from the hill, and they put it where these houses are going to be built. And they actually put our leach field right in the middle of that too. And the leach field that the condo association has that is adjacent to our leach field is also infill. So there is no leaching in the neighborhood. Anybody that knows Calander Field knows that when they built the condos, they built a series of retaining ponds around the condos. And because they built them, these were good engineers, right? Just like our friend here. Because they built them, they were built to specification approved by the town, but they do not absorb the water. Every time it rains, these things fill up, the water doesn't leach, and it runs down either to Calander Field, or it runs out to Route 30, because there are three of these. There are actually 4 separate retaining ponds, and you guys can pull up the specs on the way the drainage was designed for the condos. So Calander Field has its issues, right? Calander Field was basically underwater, right? Calander Field was originally designed so that it was going to take all of the runoff, all the groundwater from Meadow Lane, and it was going to go out. There are pipes from Meadow Lane that dump the water out on Calander Field. Now, the problem was that it was just designed to absorb the water from Meadow Lane. There was an assumption that the water was not going to flow down from the condos. And anybody that's been there, Tony has a bird's eye view of this, will see that when it rains, there is a river that runs down onto Calander Field. There have been times before they actually fixed the drainage that you could go out there and it literally be 2 feet of water all across the field, and could take up to a day to leach. And that's the nature of the soil we're dealing with. I live across the street from the building lots. I have groundwater that pops up through my driveway. I have a crack in my driveway because there's nowhere for this water to go. It pops up, and anytime it rains or the water table is high, water comes out of my driveway and runs down the driveway onto Meadow Lane. There's no place for the water to go because it's clay. Anybody that's ever tried to dig in the neighborhood knows that you cannot dig. You can't dig this soil. It's clay and gravel. The hill is a geological formation called a Drummond, and it's basically a glacial deposit of just debris, right? There is no way that that soil is going to leach, and that's what we're dealing with. One of the other retaining ponds from the condos goes, and can you bring up the diagram, Jesse? Or can someone bring up the diagram? Well, actually, let me just, I'll give you a theoretical, right? So there is a retaining pond behind, it's across from your house. What number is yours? 35. So it's across the street from 35 Meadow Lane. In that area, that also takes water from the hill. Both our leach field and the leach field for the condo association failed an inspection. And the reason they failed an inspection was because of groundwater. They were flooded by groundwater. So we haven't had that problem because in the last 2 years, there hasn't been that much rain, right? But we are very susceptible to that happening again. The condo association has a similar setup to us. Because initially we failed Title V because things weren't leaching, and if you know anything about leach fields, when they're constantly flooded, don't have the ability to grow the good bacteria that's breaking down the solids that end up going out to the leach field. So we ended up having to install I think it was about $80,000 our association paid for, a pre-treatment tank so that all of our liquids could be aerated with oxygen so that when they go out to the field, the bacteria can live. This system is completely useless if the field is underwater. It just does not work. You can introduce as much bacteria as you want, but if it's flooded, it's simply not going to break down the solids that are in the field. So I have concerns about both our leach field, which these gentlemen are calling it open space. The open space in one of those parcels is our leach field. And next to it, and I didn't even see it on the map, is a reserve area that we also have an easement for. So if our regular area were to fail, we could move over to this other area that is a reserve area. So this is kind of what we're dealing with this neighborhood. This setup that we had was put together by a gentleman that decided to develop this land, Peter Calander. He was the original owner of this property. And honestly, I don't think he had any idea that there would ever be any homes built on this land, right? That was never in his plans. But, obviously the land changes hands, and now there will be homes that are built on this land. And I don't really have any issue with homes being built on the land. But if you look at the lines right through there, Those are our easements. These homes are, we have basically, our sewage pipes go right through this lot and under that driveway. On this plan it's kind of understated, but the risk to our septic system and this development is large. We have nothing to gain from this. I mean, we have the easement, but what we have is a gentleman that's trying to maximize profit, right? And he's trying to fit these things in around our pipes. But what happens when the developers are long gone and someone decides to plant a tree because they want a tree on the corner of their lot, right? And there's our pipe right there, right next to the corner of that lot. What are we going to do as a homeowners association to be protected? Because there was never any intent when we bought into this for this land to be developed. It was not the intent. So if there is development on this land, we need to have a discussion about what protections we have as a homeowners association. We have had absolutely zero dialogue with Bill Poutre. Bill Poutre knocked on my door 2 years ago and said, hey, I want to talk to you. I'm going to be your neighbor. It's like, what are you talking about, right? I'm buying the property across the street from you. Said, he wanted to talk then because he had an idea. He knew the properties couldn't leach because of all the stuff that I told you about. And he said, hey, maybe I can plug my 2 new homes that I'm going to build into your shared septic system. And we had a dialogue with him about it. It turned out that wasn't possible, but while he was having these discussions with us, he didn't even own the land. The guy who was the trustee for Peter Calander's estate then approached us and said, hey, we want to sell this land, and we've got an issue. Your stuff is on it, right? So if we can come up with some plan to make it all work, we can actually sell the land at a higher price. But if we can't work out some sort of deal with you, then we're going to sell the land at a lower price. So Bill bought the land at a lower price because there was no deal, right? So now he's actually sitting here, and he bought the land at a discount, and he's trying to maximize the number of homes that are being built on it. Again, I have no issue with homes being built on these lots. I don't think anybody here does. But our issue is, are we protected? When this land was barren, we were protected. This development has nothing but risk for our homeowners association. This is not what we bought into 22 years ago when we all bought into this neighborhood, and tried to talk to Bill about this, but Bill doesn't really want to talk about stuff unless it serves his needs, right? And what I'm saying doesn't necessarily serve Bill's needs. So I'm appealing to the board and saying, listen, we have no recourse here. We have nothing that we can do. This guy can basically, unless this board does something, he can do whatever he wants. When we've had discussions with him before, he throws out, well, I can build a 40B. And, realistically, is Bill Poutre going to build a 40B in this town? No, right? But, this is kind of the way he operates. So my ask here is that we need to, the association, our homeowners association, needs to sit down with Bill and discuss how we are going to be protected with this development. And then we can talk about the plan. So that's all I have. Thanks.
Thank you.
You have enough, all right.
Is there any comment for,
Comments, but that's okay. He took a lot of airtime, so let this gentleman speak first.
Sure, yeah, I'll be really quick. Kyle Dumont, live at 20 Meadow Lane, so one house kind of over from the proposed development. I think first, seconding, maybe a little bit of confusion about when notice needs to be given to any of the neighbors about proposals or some of the meetings. I think some of us maybe got letters, maybe some of us didn't. I certainly didn't. I heard about it from somebody that this was kind of occurring this evening. So trying to, I think in good faith, like have it be open dialogue with the community and with Bill about what the proposals are. And I think also echoing one of the comments is that, I agreed, at least speaking for myself, no concerns about necessarily houses getting built. However, them being done in such a way that it does maintain the character and the value of the community at large, and there's multiple ways you can do that. Profit maximization is not necessarily going to evenly distribute the value to the community. So I think making the case for there being kind of open communicative dialogue about the proposal in a way that works well for the community that's living in the area. Yep.
So, like I said, the abutters list is generated by the assessor's office. If he's outside of the 300-foot setback, then he wouldn't get a notification.
20 Meadow Lane?
I don't know.
So, just for information, let's see, that's 20 Meadow Lane, map 56, parcel 4, has a mailing address of Custom Concepts LLC.
That was the previous developer, so we purchased from them in February. And
oh, it mustn't be up.
That's the way, yeah, so that's just the way that, we go by the assessor record.
Yeah, so the assessors probably haven't
Update 'em-
updated that
I'll
yet.
update them pretty frequently, but we wouldn't have, you wouldn't have gotten.
So they went to Custom Concepts? Okay.
Yeah, that's the legality of it.
Yep.
Sorry.
No worries.
I'm glad you're here.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Bree Charbonneau. I'm located at 22 Meadow Lane. I also did not receive a letter. And so we just found out yesterday the meeting was happening. And obviously, we always knew other homes would be built next to us. It has changed in the 2 years that we've been building and moving into the neighborhood. So haven't really had a lot of time to think about, other than I do have concerns, as the other neighbors mentioned. Our driveway is right there, right next to where the new development is being built. I come up Calander, and my driveway is diagonal, and many people fly through that area, but we also have a really nice neighborhood where people are out walking. You have to drive cautiously, and now we're looking at 2 more driveways right there next to ours. So I am concerned about that, as well as the water concerns. We're not in the shared septic, but our yard does not leach. We have puddles when it rains, and 4 months into our home, we had a foot of water in our basement. So I don't know how it's all going to be. We haven't had time to look at it, where we just are getting in on this today, but do have concerns.
So your notification went to a P.O. box in East Orleans, Mass?
I've changed that with this town so many times.
Oh,
But that's on the official list that we got from the.
Yeah,
town, so I'm
yeah.
Sorry. And again, I'm glad you're in attendance and can make your comments.
yeah. So the developer goes through the assessors to get all the addresses. So it's not on him, it's on the assessors if they haven't updated your mailing.
Hi there. Tony Mello. I'm at 6 Calander. So as Tom said, I do have the view of Calander Field, and I see that flooding all the time. I'm trying to think, when did they repair that recently?
I was going to say, does it still flood? Because
So all the stone that was put up on the wall to create the drainage has all come down onto the
great.
field. So water is a problem in that neighborhood, right? I think that's clear, and it flows downhill. The second one, which I think highlights here, or hasn't really been mentioned, is actually the 4 driveways, or the traffic that here. I'd recommend anyone to enter Meadow, just to go drive. See how you get onto Meadow, right? If you take one side of Meadow, it's actually the Y shape by the lights there, where that's just a disaster. So adding 5 new properties up there is going to be challenging. If you go out the other side of Meadow, you're going down Valley, which is yay wide. Obviously, Calander ends up being the route that comes in, but there's a soccer field there, and there's kids and all that. So adding the traffic, I think, is another one. That corner actually is a bus stop, usually. So if you've got young kids with 4 new driveways, it could create a challenge. I'm up for having more of a tax base in town. Having houses, it's great. I'm assuming our rates will go down. We're all agreeing that if more houses get built. No? Okay. But I think, as the concerns here from the easement and all the leach field, is it just too many, right, for that spot? So that's just my concerns.
Hi, everyone. My name is Sherry Tao. I live 39 Meadow Lane. And I think a lot of concerns have been voiced. I just want to provide my voice of support in the neighborhood that concerning the leach field, the traffic, and just the general. I think I'm not sure how the water damage is going to do to the entire neighborhood, and what kind of economic consequence that will bear onto all of the neighbors as well. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Wei Dan Guo at 35 Meadow Lane. I just wanted to support the points made. And the first concern is the impact on our septic system. I live on the hill, then the easement road going up to the Carriage Hill condominium, right? I'm like on very steep hill. My basement got flooded many times. And because of the leaching problem, right? So much water coming down. So this happened several times. We have been doing putting a French drain. We have been doing different things to kind of deal with the issue here. So that is my biggest concern. Second, it's, talk about the traffic. That's the T-junction, the new houses pretty close to the Meadow Lane. And now you add the duplex with 2 driveways, then you have the soccer field. And also people, when Route 30 get jammed up, like commuters drive through our neighborhood to go around. So the Valley Road is very narrow. I have to stop to let the coming car to pass. And the access is from, the better access is from the soccer field. So that T-junction, it's really, really difficult. It's very difficult. So that's the second concern. So I don't know what is the reason for building a duplex right there. And that's where the hangar where the shed there. It was last year I took a picture. It was like a pond. I sent the picture to my daughter, say, look, we have a pond here. So that's how serious the water problem is there. Okay. Third one is the look and feel. If you come to our neighborhood, duplex, it's not consistent with the neighborhood look and feel. So I'm wondering, other than make it more affordable, for better reason, what are the other reasons for building a duplex so close to the T-junction, so close to the soccer field? So those are 3 points. Thank you.
Thank you.
This is the Google view. What is this building? Because this.
That's their sewer pump station.
Oh.
We call it a pump house. It basically has an electrical panel and 3 air pumps.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's That's a wet well that's on the ground, and that's the,
We call that our pump house. That basically has an electrical panel and 3 air pumps, and that corrugated the metal cover there, that is the entryway for our pump chamber where we retain the effluent. Yeah. So we have an easement. That is actually on Bill's property, and pipes go in and out of that area to the leach field.
Is it, yeah, where is this on the plan?
no, we show the easement and we show the physical structures that are above ground. There's not a good as-built for some of these appurtenances, so we've not necessarily shown all of them. Where we do have them, we've shown.
Right, yeah, so it's like right there. Marnie found it.
So, but it's on the plan.
On 7
Oh,
of
okay.
9.
All right.
So it's on page 7 and 9.
For me, just to segue that, Mr. Purcell made a few comments. I mean, their risk factor is no different. They have easements. Their utilities are where they are. They have the right to pump their effluent from that location to their leaching area. I don't disagree with any of that. They're not going to be violated or put in any further jeopardy than they would whether this was fallow land or developed land.
So there's a pipe that runs under there?
Yes. Oh,
So
yeah.
how does that get protected when the backhoes are putting in the
Everything's dig safe to do the construction, to
Oh.
build it, but I don't want to debate with the butter, but these things,
Okay.
they can be properly protected.
All right, okay.
And then the rights of their rights within that easement would not be sullied in any way by any development that's there regardless, because they would be protected. And if anything, the person who's going to purchase that unit would be made very well aware of it, to understand it. So that's the least of my concerns. The more important issue, the broader issue that was being discussed, all of these drainage problems that they're talking about are totally unrelated to our project. I'm not disagreeing that we've done extensive soil testing here to be assured that we could do this properly. That there is unsuitable soils. There have been overlain on suitable soils. We've done that work with the Board of Health to prove that out, to show that. So yes, I'm not disagreeing with some of the observations that have been made, but to generalize and just to put broad statements out there and to get them to resonate and then have you take away that that's the issue, that's not right. So we'll do this in due course, we'll do this properly, we'll discuss it properly, but I just don't like some of the flagrant comments that are made. We've done...
Well, so you're getting observations from the neighborhood.
Right, but some of these aren't related to our property, have nothing to do with our locus. In general, I have seen the same problems that they have with drainage coming off of the Drumlin component of this site. I would not disagree. It comes down onto Route 30, and it's a crying shame that should happen. And some of that is open space that I think Southborough Open Land Foundation has the title to, which is even more of a shame.
So Peter, I mean, with all due respect, how can you say it's unrelated if you're building on?
I'm not touching, no, I'm not touching.
Where
that
they
portion of
have
site,
the
though.
infrastructure for their wastewater, just, treatment.
No, where their wastewater's going, I'm not doing anything where their leaching field is, and we've honored where all of their utilities go
Okay,
through.
so there's definitely some gaps here between the two sides.
We have to be assured
of the
that we don't
story.
violate any of that. I am confident that we could do that. But most importantly.
Yeah, I mean, rest assured, we're going to be drilling down on
Absolutely.
what's going on here.
We all need to, no
there's
question.
a totally
I'm just saying
different
that on the
story being
surface,
told.
there's been a lot of due diligence to get to this point. And then the only last thing I would say is that the Calander Family Trust did sell real estate. They wanted the opportunity to say Mr. Calander never was going to develop this land. Doesn't make any sense. Why would his family interest be seeking money to sell it? So they sold it. He paid good consideration for it, and he has the right to develop it. The question is, do we develop it conventionally and do conventional houses here and have higher density, or do we do it flexibly and do it with less density? And I think that's the key takeaway tonight, is that we could just abandon ship and go for a conventional plan, which makes no sense to me, and still get higher density when we could stay focused on the flexible development, get lower density, and get a better project at the end of the day. That's what I'm going to try to keep doing, and show you the numbers get us there. That's all I would like to do with ending this tonight.
To bring up the flexible versus the conventional at this point, I have to be honest, that rubs me the wrong way a little bit. We're talking about drainage issues, infrastructure. Why would you even go there in terms of bringing up the flexible versus
We're going to
the?
you get a better project and you alter.
No, but that has nothing to do with the points that are being discussed right now, Peter.
No, but the stormwater piece of that is key. You're going to spread this development out. Instead, you're going to confine it, and then you're going to handle. We're not.
Okay,
handling
I guess I misunderstood. I thought you were basically,
No,
raising
I'm
that
saying
as
it's
like
really
a
important.
specter of,
No, we're, as I said in my presentation in the beginning, every drop of stormwater that gets created on our development portion of the site is going to be collected, processed, and treated. Whereas they're experiencing situations where that water is just getting discharged.
Okay.
I think that there's a big difference between handling it and addressing it on site than there is just letting it discharge. That's what I'm trying to say, is that we've done this the right way. We're not trying to spread the development out. We're trying to localize it and keep it in a small, confined area and handle every bit of it. So that's all I would say. Thank you. I realize we're not going to get this done tonight. We're going to continue.
Thank you. Sure.
So I did just want to, so on the 101, which is the test pit data.
Yes.
So it's not actually on the property. It's everywhere else, but it's not in the property that you're going to develop. So at least based on these are all the test pits,
No, we've done them on our property as well.
but I don't see any indicated on here, which I do think would be important to
Okay,
be able to do the dig. So if you could make sure those are added.
Sure, okay. There's been a lot of test pits done.
It's clear there are. Like I counted 30, but I didn't see one in the actual property zone that you're proposing the four houses to be developed.
So as far as making a motion to continue these, am I continuing all three of them? Is that correct? Okay.
Yes.
And so the motion is to continue the public hearings for 26 Meadow Lane, Reservoir Meadows, major site plan approval, special permit lower impact development, and special permit major residential development / flexible development to December the 16th, 2024 at 7:15 PM.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, Latrell, yes?
Stein, yes?
Lehan, yes.
Demiria, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you, everyone, to understand, this is just the first hearing and kind of the introduction, and we've certainly heard your concerns, and I'm sure the proponent has too. So thank you all.
You have other public hearings, right? So the A&R will be at the end of the year.
The A&R is last. Yes, that's it.
Oh, so you didn't have another meet? Okay, I thought you had
No.
200 term.
No, we already talked about that.
We cleared the agenda for you, Peter. It's Peter's night.
Yeah, I'm sorry. All night.
If everyone could move out, excuse me, excuse us. We're still meeting. Love this thing. I need this at home.
Okay.
The next item on the agenda is an A&R 26 Meadow Lane.
All right, I'll give you a quick update. So we received an application and filed it with the town clerk on November 25th for 26 Meadow Lane, which is map 56, and it includes lots 14 and 27, sorry. So Colleen, can you zoom in a little bit? So. Let me zoom in? Yeah, just a little bit. Is this the A&R? Yes, right? It's kind of light, you can't see the,
No,
you can't see some of the
yeah,
features.
because the other lines are there.
Yeah.
I'd be happy to give someone my 11 by 17 if that would help you.
Everyone has a copy.
I'm wondering if it's...
You can see the old line.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if I understand...
The previous one in that other packet that we just did, because the plan of land is there. No, this version.
Oh, the other...
26 Meadow.
Go
But if
into
you go to your
26.
packet, You'll
Yeah.
find the plan that precedes this one
In the application
in the
documents.
application document.
So go to number.
So what's actually happening is this little triangle parcel A is, it's being merged with the Poutre property.
The principal,
And then what was parcel E that had the soil absorption system get into the whole big, okay.
because it was going to be this island of, I basically said to Bill, look, you just can't have this lot. It shouldn't be that way. It was already that way. If you recall, I think the board might have even endorsed the plan. Because
Oh, yeah, yeah.
I even said to Zach, why did you do this?
You got it. Okay, so just to read this back to you, parcel A is being absorbed into
16.
lot 2B.
Yeah,
Is that correct?
that's correct.
And parcel E is essentially being dissolved.
Correct.
Okay. No further questions.
My only question is to Karina to make sure that this, I know Karina as town planner does an amazing job from a diligence perspective, is just to, I'm going to defer to you that meets all the requirements from an A&R perspective.
Yes, I reviewed it. I did receive some non-fatal type comments from DPW, because we often let him look at them as well.
Who was Bill's comment?
Not a
You
deal
put me
killer.
through the ringer. I did everything you wanted me to do.
Yes, I did. So if you want me to, I'll just briefly mention them so that you're aware and so that Peter knows too.
Helpful, thank you.
You can spin it.
Go to tools. Okay, all right,
Did you say
sorry.
the DPW made comments?
Yes, so
Okay.
in the past, there's been some parcels that are near town property, which may have been not really access roadway. So when we had some questions on that, he said, let me look at some of the A&Rs so I can help you with comments to the surveyors, if there's, like, are they following, like, to his detail level, which is not, which he did it done in Douglas where he worked. So one of the things, so yes, Marnie, to answer your question directly, that I vetted everything on the A&R, I checked all the deed references, everything appears to make sense and be valid A&R.
So does 2B have access? And if so, where?
So,
Well, that's where parcel A,
Correct, yeah.
parcel A is being dissolved
Just turn
into,
right now, just so you can see it. That's the plan of land that the board,
excuse me.
and actually, were you on the board? You must have been.
So here?
so this little triangle,
Yeah.
which is right now part of this big lot,
there.
is going to be, is going to be cut off.
Unfortunately. How embarrassing.
No. So this little triangle here, which is part of the big lot, right, is going to be cut off, the big lot, and the intent is to join it with this lot.
And that does have
And what's-
frontage on Meadow
And
Lane.
this
What's
has
the
frontage.
amount, what's the number of that frontage there?
Well, it'd be 125. because
Yeah.
That's the minimum requirement for
Yeah, it was very
So
specific.
that's
during-
why, see the little bump out into 1A? That's where that's where the frontage came
Yes.
in.
But more importantly, parcel C, isn't it? Is it E?
It's E.
So this
Okay,
parcel
yeah,
here is where the
That's what I was
septic
saying, is
system
that when that got created at that time, it basically had no frontage on any road, and it just shouldn't have happened. And I said that to Zach. I said, look, you know, we don't want to make that mistake again. Because it, you know, sure, you can make parcels, but it really shouldn't have been.
Right. Why did I sign that?
I know.
Well, it's a non-buildable lot, too, so
No,
it-
I know, you can do it. I'm not saying you
it
can't.
wasn't wrong, it
You
just,
can do
at
it.
that
I'm
point,
just
there
saying,
was no
we don't
development
really
proposed
wanna
here.
do that, because it begs the question, how do I get?
Excuse me, but for the record, the runway was the access
I
point.
agree.
That
Just-
did qualify.
I get it.
It was not created in error.
No.
Okay.
I just don't, it just, we enabled a situation that I don't think we should have. It should have either gone to it should have had a note that said, you're gonna create a non-building lot. Who are you gonna give it to now? That's all I'm saying, is it should have gone to one of the abutters. Could have gone to 5A, I'm fine with that too. But it went to a separate entity, this 39 Falmouth. And that's when I was like, whoa, wait a minute. And I get why he was doing it, because they didn't want it to be commingled, but I said, at the end of the day, you gotta commingle it with the rest of the property.
Well, because it had the leach field on it for
Well,
the
that's what he wanted-
neighborhood,
That's what he
so
wanted it separate for.
that was the goal of that. So this area here, they're going to, in this new A&R, remove these lot lines right here,
Right.
so that it becomes part of the bigger parcel.
Right, which is what that plan does. So that's the
Yep.
presentation. I look forward to your support.
So,
Can I ask the project proponent, why do you need that triangle? Does the lot not meet the size for a,
No, he wants it to be attached to his house.
okay, I'm just,
No, I'm being honest, I don't think he wants someone to live behind him, and no one could live there anyways, but you know how it is.
I know how it is. I'm just saying with some of the concerns about not meeting the open space requirements.
We'll have to cross that bridge. I'll be looking forward to you telling me the day I'm coming to see your committee.
Yeah,
You let me
okay,
know. I'll
but I'm
be
just saying. So you can undo an A&R if you need to.
You
right?
Ready? Very much so.
I was just thinking outside the box
I
that
know.
you have some land there that could be added to the open space if you needed it.
It's okay.
But
and it also would have to be recorded to become effective.
Yes.
Correct, so.
Okay, I just thought I'd ask if you had to have it with that lot, because, thank you.
Thank you.
So, I can let you know what those issues
I'm
are.
good. I made my presentation.
Yeah.
Do you want to let us know what those?
Oh, sure. So a couple things.
What was Bill's issue?
Yeah,
It
so,
wasn't the right-of-way being public.
no, I think that in the easements where you have sewer lines, you showed the easements, but technically, it's a better call if you show the underground infrastructure of the septic lines too.
Tell Mr. Cundiff, tell the engineer who did that to put it on the plan. 'Cause that's the problem we have too.
Well, no, it's your A&R plan, so whoever does the,
But there's no as-built.
well, they're on the proposed project, so. You show pipes on the project.
I show the ones that we know that we can see,
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
but I don't know where all.
They're not on, yeah, but the ones that you do know, you should put on here technically. So that was, but it's not a fatal flaw, because you show the easements, and the easements refer to deeds that reference a plan, that indicate that. Note number 2 on the A&R, it says the property lines and existing conditions from here on are the result of an on-the-ground instrument survey performed by Lighthouse and surveying, land surveying.
So we did the on-the-ground.
Yes, but over here, under the signature line of the surveyor, and this is out of my this is out of my ballpark a little bit, but he recognized this, that it refers to 250 CMR 6. Yes, but the plan is technically supposed to be stamped, he said, by the person who did the survey. So if your note here says that this person did the on-ground survey, that's the same company? So, well, no. So that's the same, he's the same person, he did the, okay, that's clear. Yeah, you have to go there. So that's clear. Okay, not bad. You should usually have the setbacks in the dimensional, in the zoning table here. You just have the area and frontage.
Okay.
But it's good to have the setbacks for the building commissioner.
Okay.
Okay, and note number 5 on the plan indicates, where am I here?
Oh, the legal status, right, because we're not attorneys. We'll tell you what we found publicly.
However, on the plan, you write public up here, right? So that, he was saying that seems a little conflicting if you write public here, but you're not claiming, but you're saying it may not be public.
Well, no, I'm saying, we're saying what we know of record.
Yeah.
But we can't we can't
Right.
certify to it. I guess.
That's why these are not fatal. It was just conflicts that stood out to him in an engineering sense.
Okay.
You wanted to hear them, so I'm
No, it's
telling you
good,
what
it's
they...
good.
And the planning board wanted to.
The only one that I get frustrated in hearing from him is wanting copper water lines. Copper is like very difficult to work with. It's the old days.
It's expensive too, isn't it?
Jesse, here's the endorsement.
Aren't people like stealing, digging pipes to steal the copper?
So the motion is for the planning board to endorse an approval not required plan on December 2nd, 2024 for 26 Meadow Lane.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, Latrell, yes?
Stein, yes?
Houlihan, yes.
Demiria, yes.
Okay.
And I'd like to make a motion
Thank you.
to adjourn.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, Latrell, yes?
Stein, yes?
Houlihan, yes.
Demiria, yes.